Je te laisserai des mots en dessous de ta porte, en dessous de la mur qui chante, tout près de la place où tes pieds passent, cachés dans les trous dans ton divan. Et quand tu es abandonné, ramasse-moi quand tu voudras, ramasse-moi quand tu voudras, ramasse-moi quand tu voudras. when I know she's sick to keep near her, but I'm feeling cold and I must leave her. Sat down here with my head hung down and I just seem to find a bit of peace, a bit of love, a bit of something left behind. Sat down here, best intentions, nothing said, nothing lied. A bit of peace, a bit of love, a bit of something left inside. My heart's content. I say that to please her. Happiness is on her face. It's not mine that greets her. Only my disgrace to admit I need her. But we all fall from grace. Dust me down and keep her. Sat down here with my head hung down and I just seem to find a bit of peace, a bit of love, a bit of something left behind. Sat down here, best intentions, and nothing said, nothing lied. A bit of peace, a bit of love, a bit of something left inside.
A queen is never late. A queen is never late. Everyone else is simply early.
Living this way.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty. Hi, everyone. How are we doing? All right. Oh, happy Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. How are we doing? Bring back Jennifer Coolidge. My voice needs a break. How's everyone doing? Happy Friday, everyone. Blue Popeyes, thank you for the gifted sub. Posh Kenneth, thank you for the tier 1. Relax, thank you for the prime. Cole the Troll, thank you for the tier 1. Westman, thank you for the gifted. Bracelet Block, thank you for the tier 1. Saw one battle after another. That shit was Gasolina. Also met Benny Safdie promoting his movie The Smashing Machine. He seems like a cool dude. He seems like a dude who has not been changed by Hollywood. I need you to go on I've Had It. Okay, so I said to Will, I was like, oh, you have Jennifer on today. He's like, who? I was like, Jennifer Welch. He's like, oh, yeah. I went, oh, that's going to be great. And for a moment, he went, he's like, because there's a lot going on with this Rust server. Will's had to deal with a lot of drama. And so he was like, would you want to fill in for me? And I said, oh, well, no, you should do it. And then I walked out of the bathroom where he was, and then I came back in and I went, I mean, I can totally do it. But he was like, no, you don't have to. No, I'll just do it. And then I'll come back and I'll do Rust. And I was like, no, I'll totally do it. And then I think it was sounding like, I was like, I can do it if you need me to. And I didn't want it to sound like that. I was like, no, I will do it. It's not, it's not as a favor. And he's like, no, it's okay. It'll be fine. I'll just jump into Rust afterwards. So, unfortunately, yeah, I kind of fucked that up. But I did tell him, I was like, okay, please mention Sweet Home Oklahoma. He's like, what is that? I go, that is the reality show that Pumps and Jennifer did like 6-7 years ago. Sweet Home Oklahoma. Ask them if they still get together on the Serenity porch and hang out, please. It's like this, okay, so this weird thing of like, I don't really watch reality TV. And yet I have seen this reality show that Jennifer and Pumps did, where it's basically them, and then it was it was another lady, and it's like their chaotic life in Oklahoma. And I didn't even put it together until probably like a year ago, because I I've had it, and I'd watched the podcast. And like, for some reason, I just did not put 2 and 2 together. That I'm like, wait, I was introduced to them from this reality show that I watched with my friend who was from Oklahoma. You got Tim Heidecker? Yeah, I don't know if Tim's going on the podcast though. He went on Hassan's stream, but I don't know if I don't know if they have him booked for the pod. Me and Concuss were saying I've had as the perfect podcast for your mom to watch. I literally texted Will the same thing. I was like, I think my mom should watch this podcast. because Jennifer and Pumps are to the left of my mom. Like, they have much more derision for the Democratic Party. And but all of them they're all white wine moms, right? So that's the perfect type of podcast to further radicalize someone like my mom. They are the Joe Rogan of the left. Old Man Tullius, thank you for the 10 months. Silent Radical, thank you for the 12 months. Call Me for Love, thank you for the tier 1. Yes, my mother's a white lady, which is why I'm also a white lady. The rumors are true. I need a good clip to send to my mom. Here's a good clip. Hold on.
AIPAC money, or have you taken AIPAC money?
I'm not certain if I.
Okay, so this is an interview that I don't even know why the hell Jeff Duncan went on, agreed to speak with Jennifer Welch. He was the lieutenant governor of Georgia. He is a member of the Democratic Party.
I've taken it or not. I've been in office 10 years. It doesn't jump out at me as I'm taking it. But I think the most important part
will you for this race?
I have no idea. I haven't even thought about it.
Okay, come on, Jeff. This is like, there's a genocide going on right now. In even human rights, Israeli human rights groups see this, that the United States of America is funding.
To see these kids starving.
And to not know if you're going to be beholden to the Israeli lobby is to me is not something that should take time to think about, because you started off this interview with us talking about your faith.
It is.
Will you take AIPAC money in this race?
I have no idea. I haven't even.
Also, why is Jennifer better than like every fucking media person? It should not be like, this is how it should be. It's this simple. You just don't move on. You ask very directly and you don't move on, and you hold them. you make them feel uncomfortable and force them to answer the question. You stay on their asses. Oh, good. Thank you for the gift to Jennifer. 21 Resolve, thank you for the 7 months. Bees, thank you for the gifted. Angry Bullet, thank you for the 26 months.
Wow. Okay, I want to take that moral clarity that you have right there and then ask you again, are you going to take money from AIPAC? Because just there, you talked about, and AIPAC is what helped. They gave Trump over, I think, $200-300 million. Are you going to take money from a group that lobbies to deny that that's happening to those children?
I'm not going to give you the shallow answer of saying yes or no, because
if you can have moral clarity.
I'm not going to give you the shallow answer. No, buddy, it's a simple answer. It's yes or no. Yeah, he said IDK, LOL. To
talk about the starvation, the famine, and the genocide, then it's a very easy jump to then just say across the board, you wouldn't believe how popular you'd be, Jeff. You just wouldn't believe how popular you'd be if you said, I am not taking money from AIPAC.
We'll certainly continue to look at it. But
I hope we will look into it. Oh, yeah, much to consider. Thank you. Thank you. I will. Can I take a rain check on this?
You do. Jeff, I wish you the best of luck. I hope that you can report back to us sometime soon that you've thought about these AIPAC donations and that you will not accept them and partner with them in this, because I think that you will have so much more credibility. And how uncomfortable did I make you?
I was kind of all in.
I wish that people would have more rigorously, done this with our politicians and called them out more directly. I mean, I think I'm teeing him up for what's about to happen.
Yes, like this should be the standard. This should be how every politician is questioned, right? Like when Breaking Points, I thought, did a really great job when they were talking to, what's her name? You know who they had on. Why can't I remember? Slotkin. Yes. That was great. How they held Slotkin. They held her feet to the fire. This is great. Like, this is how it's supposed to be done. This is how every journalist, every person who works in media should be doing it. Posh Kenneth, thank you for the bits. Cheaper Than Art School, thank you for the 25 months. So here, this is a good clip to send. A good one to send your mom. There's a lot of good ones out there. We just watched Jennifer when she went on Majority Report and was talking about Christian nationalism and had a conversation. Why can I not think of names today? Emma Vigeland. She had a conversation with Emma, which was really, really good too. We watched that the other day. Tell me you saw Alex Jones' mustache. Oh, yeah. Nothing like putting on a Hitler mustache to own the libs. Well, what I said yesterday about it is I'm like, look, Alex Jones can't cosplay being a Nazi because he already is one. So like this kind of, cosplay, like putting on a show, trying to pretend that this is what the Democrats are. Nothing could come out of his mouth that's crazier than what Alex Jones himself says. So it doesn't work when you're Alex Jones. No, it's ironic. Like, it does not work when you are Alex Jones trying to pretend as if you're saying crazy things, as if you're Hitler because you're a Democrat. Also, when he said that ladies are throwing their panties because he just looks so good. He's just so hot. So sexy. JPB, thank you for the bits. Are we going to talk about J-Law talking about Palestine? Yes, we're going to talk about J-Law talking about Palestine. We're going to talk about the Riyadh Comedy Festival, which I got to be so for real. Really hate to see Bill Burr on there. Hate to see it. Here's a clip of Gianmarco Soresi talking about Jimmy Kimmel's return.
Donald Trump for making me watch Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, expecting. I was like, yeah, he's gonna come back. He's gonna kick ass. 3 minutes in, he's fucking crying, and I'm like, God damn it, we suck, dude. Because I don't know. I feel like liberals they have just enough empathy to be tricked by con men, but not enough to care about the children in Palestine. And it's a very
Yeah, that's a great line. Liberals have just enough empathy to be tricked by con men, but not enough empathy to care about children in Palestine.
frustrating thing. Because he's crying, and it's like, sure, you can cry about one person being shot, but that person's being used for propaganda. They said they want to make coins with Charlie Kirk's face on it. It's like, that's un-America. Normally we wait a couple years before putting a dead white supremacist.
I'm trying to decide who he reminds me of. Who does he remind me of? Like comic wise, his delivery, it's like kind of frantic, like spacing in between. No, not Mulaney. No, Jeff. Yeah, maybe you know what? I was thinking Jeff Goldblum, even though he's not a comic, but he does kind of have. He kind of has that intonation, like speech pattern that Jeff Goldblum has, where he like puts. It's like kind of frantic, kind of jumbled together, like pauses where pauses wouldn't normally be.
On our money. I thank you. That's a good one. Yeah. That's how you can tell it's a good one. No one laughs, and someone says, "That's a good one. It's a good one. It's a good one." I don't know.
Little Steve Martin.
I don't know what I was expecting. Listen, I could never do late, and I'd be fired immediately. I'd want to say all this shit, but I don't like how Jimmy Kimmel had to be like he's like I gotta hand it to Ted Cruz. Because Ted Cruz was like, the government shouldn't.
You never ever have to hand it to Ted Cruz, nor should you. Okay, never hand it to Ted Cruz because you just never should. All right, never.
Censor. Why do you have to hand it to Ted Cruz? Just if he says something good, that's great. You don't have to bring it up, though. Like it's a fucked up guy. I don't care if he says one thing right. I don't need to fucking acknowledge it. It's like my dad. He visited me here.
You know what's so annoying too? Okay, here's a beef that I have with liberals. Liberals love to do this thing where when the most heinous people say something that is not the normal heinous thing that they say, they love to like hold that up, draw attention to it. When, look, there's a lot of people who are not serial killers like Ted Cruz who are, who like you can point to and go, look at the point that they're making. Like, this is a great point. And liberals do this all the time. I mean, it's like how liberal media, though, would always try to pretend that Trump was presidential. It'd be like, this is the day that Donald Trump finally became president. Where they so badly, I think, want to not see these people actually as our enemies. Like they really want to have, it's like they really want to be on the same side. I don't know what it is. This kind of deference that's given when somebody on the right is saying something that's not like the usual crazy shit they would say.
And he's like, we got to go to this Italian restaurant. He said, I heard it's Woody Allen's favorite Italian restaurant. And I'm like, you got to find a different guy. You can't. You hear it's Woody Allen's favorite restaurant. I assume the meat's undercooked.
Is this from his YouTube special? I need to watch that. Okay. Maybe I get into talking about, should we talk about this now? So tonight's stream is going to be shorter because my friend is releasing her album, and so I am going to go to that later. So probably going to leave at like 9:30. So get your Twitch watching in now. Yes, Taylor. yeah, Tay, my friend Tay is releasing an album. And so I was like, yeah, you know what? I think I can go. Yeah, so I'll let you know how it is. PST? Yes, I operate in PST. Okay, let's talk about the Riyadh Comedy Festival, because what the fuck? What the fuck? So the Riyadh Comedy Festival is a festival that is put on by Saudi Arabia. It takes place at Boulevard City in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and it features lots of high-profile comedians. And essentially, it is an aspect of Saudi Arabia's attempts to whitewash the crimes that they commit against humanity. You know, they have like an entire aspect of their state that is dedicated to utilizing entertainers and entertainment events like this comedy festival to whitewash their reputation. And they offer people tons of money, tons and tons of money, so that they look the other way. And for everyone who's like, oh, well, maybe they'll get up on stage and talk about all of the human rights violations that the Saudis are committing. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Whitney Cummings is going to get up on stage and talk about like the journalists that are getting executed because they are dissidents. I don't think that's happening. Like, I think it's still even doing copium to be like, no. The reason Bill Burr agreed to sign, took the bag and is going to be doing this comedy festival is because actually he's going to get up on stage and he's going to rip the Saudis apart. Like, maybe I'll be proven wrong. Maybe I can have my faith somewhat restored in Bill Burr, but I don't think that's why these comedians took the $1 million+ to perform at this comedy festival. All right, so let's listen to Marc Maron. Here's Marc Maron.
Festival. I don't know if you heard about that. There's a Riyadh Comedy Festival. I don't know if you heard about that. This is true. There's a Riyadh, Saudi Arabia Comedy Festival. I mean, how do you even promote that? You know, like, from the folks that brought you 9/11, 2 weeks of laughter in the desert. Don't miss it.
Also, to be clear, a lot of comedians get offered the bag. Not every one of them take the bag. Like, Michelle Wolf turned it down and she said it was a lot of money. Shane Gillis is out here being more principled than Bill Burr.
I mean, the same guy that's going to pay them is the same guy that paid that guy to bonesaw Jamal Khashoggi and put him in a fucking suitcase. But don't let that stop the yucks. It's going to be a good time. Full disclosure, I was not asked to perform.
Bro, and then Tim Dillon, who's such a piece of shit. Tim Dillon was supposed to perform. He was one of the lower paid performers. And he apparently made a joke about Saudi Arabia's, like, he made a joke on his podcast about Saudi Arabia's human rights violations. And then they removed him from the roster.
The Riyadh Comedy Festival. So it's kind of easy for me to take the high road on this one. Easy to maintain your integrity when no one's offering to buy it out, you know. There's a
easier to maintain your integrity when no one is offering to buy it out. Also, Stavi has been asked repeatedly to be a part of this, and he said no. Okay, here is the Human Rights Watch release on the festival. Saudi Arabia, Riyadh Comedy Festival whitewashes abuses. Comics performing should urge release of detained activists. Yeah, can you imagine Aziz Ansari getting up there and being like, hey, so Saudi Arabia, lot of human rights violations, huh? Ah, okay. Well, anyway, like, what? Is Pete Davidson going to say anything about his dad who was killed in 9/11? Are there going to be, is he going to have jokes? Is he going to have jokes about the people who have paid him to perform at this festival, bearing responsibility for the fact that his father is no longer alive? Okay. The Saudi government is using the Riyadh Comedy Festival 2025 from September 26th to October 9th. Also, you want to know what happens in that time span? The 7th anniversary of Jamal Khashoggi's murder. Jamal Khashoggi was murdered 7 years ago on October 2nd. He has still, neither he nor his family have received any justice. No justice for the Khashoggi family. There have not been the investigations into his murder at the hands of the Saudis. It's been 7 years. 7 years that he was horrifyingly murdered. But it's because our government has a very lucrative relationship with the Saudis. So journalists be damned. But yeah, that is taking place during this comedy festival. So I'm wondering if anyone is going to get on stage and mention that maybe on the day that the anniversary occurs, whoever's performing on the 2nd. Is anyone going to mention it? It would not. This would not surprise me if this had actually been real. Like, it would. You know what? It would make sense. It would honestly make sense. 1 minute in, Stavros roasts Mark Norman and Sam Morrill for performing in Saudi.
Those are going to do it.
Just laugh for no reason, and you should.
London, September, Bush Empire.
Oh, I'm doing that in October. Yeah, it's a good
That's
one.
A good show.
It's a good one.
All right. London,
London, Connecticut.
London, Ontario, and then I'll be Chicago, September 5th, and then September 11th, theater at MSG, and then September 27th, Saudi Arabia with. Oh, you fucking piece of shit! You're all fucking pieces of shit. We're in a stone Sam.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Jessica Kirson's getting it first. Right? What the hell?
Like, why not just have it on September 11th? You know,
Leave it. I'll tell you that.
Oh fuck!
It's gonna be hard to do crowd work with that burqa.
Everyone doing all the people cleaning your sheets are just Filipino slaves. Yeah. They're doing it too, right?
I am.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
October 8th. I figured the 7th would have been in poor taste, so I'm doing the 8th.
What? Jesus, it takes place on October 7th. You guys are in Riyadh on October 7th.
Realize that.
I'm on the 8th. I'm there on the 8th.
Oh my God.
What is going on the 7th? You're going to be doing remembrance posts from Saudi Arabia? Yeah, from Saudi Arabian airspace?
Sound good. Hold on.
wouldn't it be the first time the Saudis did something big on 9/11? RJ, thank you for the 24 months. Filibuster, thank you for the gifted. Toxic Bear, thank you for the 18 months. Andrea, thank you for the tier 1. Okay, so the Saudi government is using the Riyadh Comedy Festival from September 26th to October 9th to deflect attention from its brutal repression of free speech and other pervasive human rights violations, Human Rights Watch said today. The festival dates include the 7th anniversary of the Saudi state-sponsored murder of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi and takes place just months after Saudi authorities executed a journalist apparently for his public speech. Also, just a little side note, I was listening to an interview with Karen Attia, who is the Black female journalist who was fired from the Washington Post. She was the last remaining Black female opinion writer, I think. And anyway, so hers was a pretty high profile firing in the wake of Charlie Kirk's murder. And she, in this interview, was talking about how there was an especially painful aspect of her firing because Jamal Khashoggi, who was one of, who worked at the Post, he was a columnist at the Post, and he and Karen worked together. And I think he was like, I can't remember if it was like in any type of mentor capacity, but anyway, so she was talking about him and how when he was murdered, that the Post, the leadership at the time and the way that the Post acted was very much in the defense of freedom of the press and free speech, the rights that should have been entitled to Jamal Khashoggi, that should be part of the part of the criminal consequences that are levied on those who participated in the murder, who orchestrated his murder, because Jamal Khashoggi, like other journalists in Saudi Arabia, was executed for the words that he wrote. And so Karen was talking about how it was especially painful now after how the Post just turned her out and didn't even have a meeting with her. They just sent her a letter that was like, see ya, you're done. You're done. Somebody will send your things. That they did not stand up for her, that they did not protect one of their journalists who was only doing her job. She was only doing what she had been trained to do at the Post, which was to write the truth, which was to speak the truth, and she was fired for it. Why did they let her go? They let her go because she had tweeted on Blue Sky about it was like a tweet about like the epidemic of white male violence in this country, which is true. And they basically were like, you're calling all white men violent. And that's not what she was doing. She was correctly pointing to the serious issue of violence in this country, specific to white male violence. When we're talking about we're talking about shootings and terrorist acts. And she had also mentioned Charlie Kirk when he had been talking about Black women. I think he was talking about Joy Reid, Michelle Obama, other, notable, successful Black women, and how they don't have the brain processing power, how they obviously have to rely on DEI because they just could not get to where they are based on their own merits. So she was fired. She was fired for her tweets and didn't even have the chance to to have a meeting with the Post. They just got rid of her. Journalism is so important. I might be a fucking nerd, but I don't care. People deserve to be held accountable for the choices they make when they impact others. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have to protect and preserve journalism. We do. So anyway, just that kind of connection there between Karen and Jamal. Here, I can pull up her post. The Washington Post fired me, but my voice will not be silenced. I spoke out against hatred and violence in America, and it cost me my job. Last week, the Washington Post fired me. The reason: speaking out against political violence, racial double standards, and America's apathy towards guns. 11 years ago, I joined the Post's opinions department with a simple goal: to use journalism in service of people. I believed in using the pen to remember the forgotten, question power, shine light in darkness, and defend democracy. Early in my career, late Washington Post editorial page editor Fred Hyatt told me that opinion journalism is not just about writing the world as it is, but as it should be. He told me we should use our platform to do good. That has been my North Star every day. As the founding Global Opinions editor, I created a space for courageous, diverse voices from around the world, especially those exiled for speaking the truth. I was inspired by their bravery. When my writer, global opinions columnist Jamal Khashoggi, was brutally murdered by Saudi Arabia regime agents for his words, I fought loudly for justice for years, putting my life and safety on the line to pursue accountability and defend global press freedom. For this work, I was honored with global recognition, prestigious awards, and proximity to the world's most powerful people. As a columnist, I used my voice to defend freedom and democracy, challenge power, and reflect on culture and politics with honesty and conviction. Now, I am the one being silenced for doing my job. On Blue Sky, in the aftermath of the horrific shootings in Utah and Colorado, I condemned America's acceptance of political violence and criticized its ritualized responses, the hollow, cliched calls for thoughts and prayers, and this is not who we are that normalize gun violence and absolve white perpetrators, especially while nothing is done to curb deaths. I express sadness and fear for America. So here are some of her tweets that got her fired. I wish I had hope for gun control and that I could believe political violence has no place in this country. But we live in a country that accepts white children being massacred by gun violence, not just accepts, but worships violence. We will do nothing to curb the availability of the guns used to carry out said violence. The denial and empty rhetoric is learned helplessness because the truth is America is sick and there's no cure in sight. Because America, especially white America, is not going to do what it needs to do to get rid of the guns in their country. It will be thoughts and prayers. Violence has no place out of a performance of goodness, not out of the resolve to service their communities to disarm. My most widely shared thread was not even about activist Charlie Kirk, who was horribly murdered, but about the political assassinations of Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman, her husband, and her dogs. I pointed to the familiar pattern of America shrugging off gun deaths and giving compassion for white men who commit and espouse political violence. This cycle has been documented for years. Nothing I said was new or false or disparaging. It is descriptive and supported by data. I did my journalistic duty, reminding people that despite President Trump's partisan rushes to judgment, no suspect or motive had been identified in the killing of Charlie Kirk, exercising restraint even as I condemned hatred and violence. My journalistic and moral values for balance compelled me to condemn violence and murder without engaging in excessive false mourning for a man who routinely attacked Black women as a group, put academics in danger by putting them on watch lists, claimed falsely that Black people were better off in the era of Jim Crow, said that the Civil Rights Act was a mistake, and favorably reviewed a book that called liberals unhumans. In a since-deleted post, a user accused me of supporting violence and fascism. I made clear that not performing over-the-top grief for white men who espouse violence was not the same as endorsing violence towards them. My only direct reference to Kirk was this one post, his own words on record. Black women do not have the brain processing power to be taken seriously. You have to go steal a white person's slot. My commentary received thoughtful engagement across platforms, support, and virtually no public backlash. And yet the post accused my measured Blue Sky posts of being unacceptable, gross misconduct, and of endangering the physical safety of colleagues. Charges without evidence, which I reject completely as false. They rushed to fire me without even a conversation, claiming disparagement on race. Yeah, they were like, you're racist. The Washington Post said to Karen Attia, yeah, you're racist, so we're firing you. This was not only a hasty overreach, but a violation of the very standards of journalistic fairness and rigor that the Post claims to uphold. Since then, my words on absolution for white male violence have proved prescient. The suspect in Kirk's killing is indeed a young white man, and already lawmakers are urging us to pray for him. The media is painting the 22-year-old as a good, all-American suburban kid. The cycle I mentioned has once again come to pass. I was the last remaining Black full-time, not even just Black woman, not just Black female opinion columnist, but like Black full-time opinion columnist in general. In one of the nation's most diverse regions, Washington, D.C. no longer has a paper that reflects the people it serves. What happened to me is part of a broader purge of Black voices from academia, business, government, and media, a historical pattern as dangerous as it is shameful and tragic. I am proud of my 11 years at the Post. Beyond awards and recognition, the greatest honor has been working with brilliant colleagues and connecting with readers and writers around the world. To all who have supported me, read me, even those who disagreed with me, I say thank you. You've made me a better writer, thinker, and person. But this is not the end of my work. I still believe in the power of the pen. My values have not changed. Freedom from censorship, especially on talking about race, is why I launched the Resistance Studies series, beginning with my independent online course, Race, Media, and International Affairs 101. I created this course after Columbia's School of International and Public Affairs cut funding for my race and media class. Oh, that was the other thing, is she had a very popular class at Columbia's School of International and Public Affairs, and the funding was cut for that because of the crackdown on this kind of education, on this kind of academia. This summer, we sold out all 500 spots and funded more than 40 scholarships. I may have been canceled by Columbia. I have now been canceled by the Washington Post. Institutions may cancel me, but my pen and my teaching will not be silenced. If anything, my voice will be sharper now. Forward forever, backward never. As always, we move on. Okay, so that is Karen's piece about getting fired. And then to bring this back to the comedy festival in Saudi Arabia, Jamal Khashoggi's murder having taken place, being at the hands of Saudi nationals, and the anniversary of his murder occurring during this comedy festival. Participating comedians, to avoid contributing to laundering the Saudi government's reputation, should use the comedy festival to publicly urge Saudi authorities to free unjustly detained Saudi dissidents, journalists, and human rights activists. You know, they should, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't. Because I think the people who would have done it, turned it down. I think anyone who actually would have spoken to the insane human rights violations that the Saudis are committing is not agreeing to do this festival. They're not taking the bag. Quick fact, in a lot of these places in Gulf nations, slave labor complex have nets outside the windows and balconies so they can't kill themselves and keep working. Yeah, that's bleak as fuck. The festival lineup includes Aziz Ansari, Hannibal Buress, Bill Burr, Jimmy Carr, Dave Chappelle, Pete Davidson, Maz Jabroni, Sam Morrell, Mark Normand, Nimesh Patel, and Tom Segura. Tim Dillon was scheduled to perform, but said he was fired after he joked on his podcast about Saudi Arabia's poor human rights record.
Today, one step closer.
I do have that. Hold on. Beep, beep, beep. 1 second. Yeah, Stavi declined. I mean, a number of even Will has been offered deals. Will's been offered deals by the Saudis and has obviously said no. This is how, first of all, their pockets are endless. Their pockets are absolutely endless.
To people that are in his...
This is how far they are reaching out. They reach out to streamers, they reach out to influencers, TikTokers, comedians, singers, because they have an entire, they have so much money that is dedicated towards their from their entertainment bureau. And it is in order to help launder their reputation. So they throw these sporting events, they throw these comedy events, they throw these music festivals.
Prison. So you might...
Yeah, Will, they offered him, it was some tennis event. Something to do with tennis. And they wanted him to I don't know, be an announcer or something. Yes, I have the Zach Woods video. We'll take a look at it. Okay, I'm sorry. This is Tim Dillon. If you don't know Tim Dillon, he's really obnoxious. He's one of those free speech. He's one of those comedians who's always talking about cancel culture. One of those I'm being canceled, I'm being silenced, and yet continues to talk.
Cisco. Well, doesn't that sound swell?
This is what happens when you grow up as a gay man on Long Island. Is Tim Dillon gay? I did not know that. Yes, gay and from Long Island. I really only kind of know Tim Dillon peripherally because every time I feel like I see a clip of Tim Dillon, he's just complaining about like cancel culture. But I don't think he's a Trump guy. I don't think he's MAGA. He's like also always making fun of Trump too. I just don't like his brand of comedy. I don't like his voice.
He's going to be giving these lectures to people that are in his prison. So you might as well have a couple of dollars to try to buy your way out of the Peter Thiel compulsory Antichrist lecture that he's going to be giving at his prison. Now, people might say to me, hey, you're coming out and saying you're doing the Saudi thing for money. They're paying you a lot of money. I'm not going to tell you how much they're paying me. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how much they're paying me $375,000 for one show.
I like that he goes, I'm not going to say how much they're paying me. They were paying me $375,000 for one show. And also, this is on the lower end.
Now, a lot of other people are getting $1.6 million. That's not me. I'm not in that bracket. But they're giving me $375. Others are getting $150. Why are they doing it? Here's the point. Okay? I am doing this because they're paying me a large sum of money. They're paying me enough money to look the other way.
Like, at least he says it, okay? At least Tim Dillon is like, yeah, they're paying me $375,000 and they're paying me this amount of money so that I look the other way, so that I don't go, wait a sec, what's going on here? So that in my comedy that I perform at the show, I don't say anything about what the Saudis are doing. So that's why I'm sitting here being like, if you think that these comedians are going to get up on stage and use their, use their performance in a way that highlights what the Saudis are doing, I don't think so.
Do you understand? Look the other way. That's a 4-word sentence that people don't do anymore. Look the other way. If something bad is happening to your left, look to your right. If, for example, I'm at a breakfast and I see someone get grabbed and they start hitting them with that big stick. I don't know if it's bamboo or whatever it is. It's kind of a wood, but it kind of snaps back. It's perfect for a cane. If I see someone getting it, I will look the other way, okay? If I look the other way and I see someone being behanded, meaning they're chopping a hand off, that might be interesting to just kind of see actually how they do it, because I think they do it kind of a sanitary way. But from what I've heard, if they're chopping a hand, I might look down. And if I'm looking at the floor and I see some eyeless beggar grabbing at me, trying to get my money, I will look up to the heavens. And if in the heavens I see a drone flying over, I will look the other way because I'm being paid enough money to look the other way. What don't you understand? What is so complicated? I'm the only honest person just going to do it. Everyone else is going to have.
And you know what happened? He got his contract got canceled. His contract got canceled just for him saying this.
Of a million, they're going to go, well, actually, the Middle East is more progressive now, and he's trying to make some change. No. I'm being paid a lot of money to not care about what they do in their country. I mean, it's very simple. If you pay me lots of money, I will not.
Also, like, I need to clarify for people who don't understand that what Saudi Arabia does, the amount of money that they spend on sporting events, on these entertainment, like these comedy festivals, This is specifically to whitewash their human rights record. Like, this is 6 years ago, entertainment was like not allowed, or however long ago, was not allowed in Saudi Arabia. And then they understood the value in growing, in creating this entire entertainment economy that they can then utilize to whitewash the crimes that they are committing. Like, they just executed a journalist 2 weeks ago. Yes, their record is widely known, so they rehab it. It's like when they give a gift, all these fancy gifts and the $2 billion to Jared Kushner and all these relationships that they have. And when they're paying like politicians and major stars in America so that everyone's like, oh, okay, I guess it's all good. I guess it's fine. Like 2 years ago, there was when it was announced that they were going to do the World Expo, like that they were possibly going to host the 2030 World Expo, and people like, human rights organizations responded to that and were like, we beg, we beg people in charge to not consider the candidacy of Saudi Arabia as a possible host for the 2030 Expo. My dad is from Saudi and still lives there. Last time he came to visit, he was trying to convince me that it was more westernized than I thought and I should come see him there. I'm covered in tattoos. And he was like, it's not that they don't care about, it's not like that. They don't care about that stuff anymore. LOL, I'm convinced he was trying to get me to go over there to trap me and get back at my mom since he still holds a ton of resentment towards her. Oh gosh, I'm sorry for that. What was I going to say? There's a reason that the murder of Jamal Khashoggi has not gone investigated, that no justice has been obtained for his family. There also 9/11. Hi.
Comment on what's going on. In fact, I will ignore it. And if something that I really disagree with is happening, the more money you pay me, the less I'm going to think about it. Truly.
What about enjoying all the American culture and events while the USA is supporting a genocide? Genuine question. I mean, look, there are targeted boycotts. There are individuals and organizations that are specifically boycotted because of the connection to Israel's war crimes. So I think people are like struggling to, like, if you think that I'm sitting over here acting as if the United States is a perfect country because I am pointing out the very well-known human rights abuse record that Saudi has, and that I am talking about how they specifically spend a lot of money and use celebrities and create these events and host these major global events in order to whitewash their abuses. Like, that is not then me going, oh, the United States is not responsible for any crimes in this world.
This is a really important thing that no one does anymore, and I'm recommending it. Look the other way. If you are in a foreign country and you don't agree, because what's the other option? We're going to have to go into all of these countries and make them be Americans and make them live the way we live. That's not.
And also understand that, like, the entertainment, the pop culture of the United States is not explicitly tied to the government. So I've talked a lot about, like, say, the Department of Defense and how they have a relationship in Hollywood, where if you want to make a film that uses military equipment, then the Pentagon needs to sign off on it. Like, they have these contracts, and that way they can, ensure that their propaganda continues in Hollywood. But I'm like this is not the government. Like the difference being the Saudi government, which is responsible for all of these events. Like they fund all of this stuff because they use it to whitewash their record. I can't tell if people are trying to like excuse what's going on in Saudi Arabia. I can't tell if this is one of those like, oh, well, yeah, I guess there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. Isn't most movies supported by government grants? No. Like American pop culture is like its own thing. Now, it's not that there are not connections, but as far as it being like one and the same as the government, that it is directly tied. Like the government is who funds and therefore controls. No, it's not one dummy doing whataboutism. I've seen multiple comments of people not understanding like the problem here. Like, is it like, let me just be. Is it because somebody who you like has taken Saudi money to participate in this? Is that what's going on? Whether it's your favorite comedian Aziz Ansari, or it's like a streamer or like a YouTuber, is that what's happening? Is it because like you just can't comprehend Bill Burr refusing the bag? There's also a difference between performing for your own regime and country versus going to someone else's regime to prop it up. Like, yeah, if a Brit came to America, call them out, but someone living and born there is always going to be different because unless they move out of the country, what are they going to do? Well, it's like people who are being paid by Saudi Arabia are doing it's propaganda. That's what it is. So like, I guess I would liken it to, I guess it would be like all these American influencers who are getting paid right now to do Israel propaganda. Yeah. Okay. Let's watch this. Let me finish this. Let me finish this Human Rights Watch release, and then we can watch the Zach Woods video, and maybe that will convince some people. I don't know why chatter keeps asking about Top Gun. Like, you know what? Please watch my streams more. If you haven't heard me talk about, yes, the propaganda in Top Gun, there have been multiple streams I have done where I lay out in detail the military propaganda in the entertainment industry. I have talked about since World War II, the Department of Defense's Entertainment Bureau, that they have influence over films that are in the, anything to do with the American military specifically, because like, yes, you want a fighter jet. You need to like film on the Pentagon, you need to film on the Pentagon grounds. You sign a contract with the Pentagon. Like that's how that works. And so they get to see the script. They get to make sure that they're not, it's not too anti-American military. The State Department didn't pay for the fucking Beatles to tour here to distract from Jim Crow South issues. It's going on with Saudi and comedy festivals. Like, I don't know. If you want to if you want to look at this and go, yeah, no problems here, totally fine. No issues whatsoever that the Saudi government continues to pay exorbitant amounts to politicians, to celebrities, to entertainers with the explicit purpose of whitewashing and laundering their reputation, then that's fine. I don't know. How is it propaganda? You want to know why? Because here's the thing. When everyone's talking about, oh, hey, Saudi Arabia just murdered a fucking journalist. Hey, there's all these human rights violations that are happening in this country. Oh, don't worry about it, because here's like a major American celebrity performing. The reason it's propaganda is because by giving your, like, by greenlighting essentially and going, no, it's totally fine over here. It's great. No problems to be found. Let's focus on like these really cool relationships that the Saudi government has formed with all of these, all of these really famous people, and look at their cozy relationship with the American government. Like, obviously, how could they have done 9/11 if the American government has a relationship with the Saudis? Are chatters being paid by the Saudis? I don't know. Maybe. I never said this was unique. Like, I don't know. You guys are driving me nuts. I don't understand, like, why there is such pushback to what I'm saying here. I'm truly, and I know it's not everybody. I know it's not everyone, but I think it's like, I think it's this refusal to go, oh yeah, no, that's what this is, which is why people are expressing disappointment in someone like Bill Burr, which is why, there's a lot of criticism towards these comedians who have taken enormous sums of money to perform at this comedy festival. Like, that's like, why do you not want to recognize that what this is true? That the Saudi government spends so much money, and they have purposefully grown out this entertainment economy as an effort to fix their reputation on the global stage, to like distract and whitewash the crimes that they're committing. And no, I don't think it's unique to Saudi Arabia. Do I think Saudi Arabia is the only country committing human rights violations? Obviously not. Israel's committing a fucking genocide. The United States is funding that genocide. Countries in the EU are funding that genocide. Like, no, I don't think this is a unique situation. I am not going, oh, Saudi Arabia is the sole villain in this world. I'm sorry I asked. No, it's fine. No, you're asking. I'm happy to answer questions and to clarify, but I am not going to stand for people being antagonistic towards what I'm saying because, I don't know, they don't want to admit that somebody that they're a fan of has participated in this. Like, they don't want to recognize that this is what's going on because they're Saudi Arabia's #1 fans. I don't know. They also really want foreign investors, so they need to clean their reputation. And look, there are celebrities who decline. Emily Ratajkowski, John Cena, even fucking Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj has declined, citing the government's terrible human rights record. Shane Gillis was like, no, whatever. I'm not gonna say yes to this. They offered me a huge bag. Like, there are there are people who say no. The 7th anniversary of Jamal Khashoggi's brutal murder is no laughing matter, and comedians receiving hefty sums from Saudi authorities shouldn't be silent on prohibited topics in Saudi like human rights or free speech, said Joey Shea, Saudi Arabia researcher at Human Rights Watch. Everyone performing in Riyadh should use this high-profile opportunity to call for the release of detained Saudi activists. So Human Rights Watch is offering a call to action for the comedians who have taken this opportunity and are going to be speaking on stage. And they're like, hey, this is a very high profile event. It's a very high profile event. Please use this opportunity to call for the release of detained Saudi activists, to highlight the murders of journalists, including American journalists, and maybe talk about 9/11 while you're at it. If Ms. Kiff can say no, so can your comedy fave. Human Rights Watch on September 19th wrote to the representatives and management of a group of announced participating comedians to request a meeting about Saudi Arabia's human rights crisis. The representatives and management did not reply. Human Rights Watch urged the comedians in particular to publicly call for the release of the Saudi human rights defender Walid Abu al-Khair, who is serving a 15-year prison sentence as a result of his human rights activism. The comedians should also seek the release of Manahel al-Otabi, a female fitness instructor and women's rights activist sentenced to 11 years in prison, recently reduced to 5 years for promoting women's rights online. They should also raise the lack of accountability in Khashoggi's murder at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul on October 2nd, 2018. The government of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has aggressively organized and bankrolled high-profile events featuring major international artists, celebrities, and sports figures. The investment in these events is tied to the Crown Prince's Vision 2030, a plan to overhaul the country's economy and attract foreign investors and tourists. Among its elements is to create more leisure and recreational options to enhance the image of the kingdom internationally. I'm doing this because they're paying me a large sum of money, Tim Dillon said on his August 30th podcast. They're paying me enough money to look the other way. Dillon said that the Saudi festival was paying him $375,000 for the one show on October 8th, but that other performers were offered as much as $1.6 million. They bought comedy, Dillon added. Do I have issues with the policies towards freedom of speech? Of course I do, but I believe in my own financial well-being. Chat, believe it or not, people who are usually good at these things are still not perfect. It doesn't immediately make them evil, but allows you to be informed about what that... look, I love Bill Burr, and I think Bill Burr has been a very needed, comedic voice in especially the last year, when he has spoken up about billionaires, when he has talked about Luigi. I think what happens is people get scared that if someone they're a fan of does something that's not great, then any condemnation of that, any pointing out, hey, this is why this isn't good, is now you have to hate that person. And then you start to be like, well, then where do we draw the lines? Because then we can't, I guess, no ethical consumption under capitalism. I think it becomes this thing where you then don't want to have any criticism. You don't want to point out when somebody who has otherwise been great, who's normally seems pretty consistent, stumbles. I think people think of it as a moral failing upon themselves, and they need to step back, take a breath, figure out how to be productive on the matter. Yeah. I was texting in a group chat of mine with with Taylor and Matt and Kat Tenbarge, and we were talking about this, and it was just like, oh man, this is disappointing. No one was like, we need to kill Bill Burr. Yeah, you can also stop supporting them if you like. We were talking about it, expressing what a disappointment it was, and that like initially we thought it was a joke. No, it couldn't be, like, not Bill Burr. I do love that Tim Dillon admitted selling out and then lost the bag because of it. You know what? Yeah, the fact that he was honest about it. Okay, look. Let me go full screen. Alexandra, thank you for the 4 months. Chozo, thank you for the bits. Hogan, thank you for the gifted. Oakry, thank you for the 3 months. Whatever it means, thank you for the 3 months. Nick Shadow, thank you for the prime. I am a pop culture girly, all right? I love pop culture. I love artists whose work means a lot to me. And I talk about these things because this is, this is just like the content that I do. I look a lot into what's happening in pop culture and how it intersects with politics. I just am always running up against, I'm running up into this wall. I come up against a wall. And as many times as I can say to people, please don't be parasocial about celebrities. Please don't be parasocial about, your favorite artists or streamers or whoever it is. Please don't put them on a pedestal. Please don't worship them, because what happens then is it like removes your ability to be critical. And this is like the same conversation that we have when I talk about propaganda. Like we watched that Ole and Friends video. It was a great video. That was a conversation that we had, which we've had multiple times when we critically examine media, when we look at like the goings on within pop culture and talk about it honestly. So when I say, like when we talk about military propaganda, when we talk about propaganda, I still watch Law and Order. Like I loved Criminal Minds, but I recognize what, this aspect of these types of shows that are, that are propaganda in nature. And so, so anyway, when talking about how Saudi Arabia, how they spend all of this money and have created this enormous entertainment economy, and they're trying to attract foreign investors and tourists, and they want to have all of these celebrities and major politicians, seemingly allied with them. And this is because of the major human rights violations that are occurring every day. They're executing journalists. You think freedom of speech is bad over here. Like it is bad over there. There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of issues in Saudi Arabia, and they have so much money that they use on trying to whitewash these major problems. And so, yes, somebody that you're a fan of their, you're a fan of them for whatever reason, may end up doing something like this because they have a far reach. The fact that like Will Neff has been offered, that like tons and tons of streamers have either taken deals or have declined deals, like they reach far and wide. Sports, acting, music, TikTok, comedians. Yeah, Ms. Giff was offered. Saudi paid the most followed football player in the world, Cristiano Ronaldo, won $700 million over just 2 years. I thought it was even more than that, but I mean, that's a lot. They offered Cutie money. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually like, they haven't offered me money. Just as Mark Maron said, it's easy to have your integrity when you're not even getting offered. I can't believe they haven't offered me. It's also worth, oh yes, it's also the amount of money. The amount of money is also like it's egregious. These are enormous sums. Do you think that these comedians, even though they are very like they're you know, very famous, very successful, do you think this is like their normal rate? Do you think a stand-up comedian is getting $1.5 million? That's their normal. Do you think, like, look at this list again.
If you heard about that.
Like that is, even though these people are rich and they are well paid, that is still a huge sum. And the reason that they offer that much money is because it makes it harder to turn down. And because then it also makes it harder to say anything to say anything about Saudi Arabia, especially when you're over there being hosted by them, that is critical. On September 20th, Dylan announced that his performance had been canceled after Saudi authorities were allegedly unhappy about his comedic remarks on the treatment of migrant workers and other human rights issues. Also, what does that tell you? What does that tell you? That Saudi authorities didn't like what he said, and so they removed him. I addressed it in a funny way, and they fired me, he said. I certainly wasn't going to show up in your country and insult the people that are paying me the money, he said. But on my own show, in my own country, where I have the freedom to speak and say the things I want, I'm going to be funny. Jimmy Carr, who's co-headlining the festival on October 6th, does not list his appearance in Saudi Arabia on his website or on his social media. I wonder why. Why? Like, these are questions that you should be asking because it points to the answer. Why wouldn't Jimmy Carr, who's co-headlining this major festival alongside some of the most famous comedians, why wouldn't he list this? Why wouldn't he be talking about this? Carr has often vigorously defended free speech publicly. I'm a huge free speech absolutist, but it is not freedom from consequences. The public statements that many participating Riyadh Comedy Festival comedians have made about the importance of free expression contrast sharply with the Saudi authorities' brutal crackdown on any criticism of the government. Yeah, they'll kill you. In 2025, the Saudi government has been on an execution spree to crush peaceful dissent, including speech. On June 14th, the Saudi government executed Turki al-Jassar, a prominent Saudi writer and journalist, for various terrorist crimes. The government has released few details about his detention, trial, and execution, and it appears he faced capital punishment because of his peaceful speech and commentary. In February 2024, Saudi authorities executed Abdullah al-Shamri, a Saudi political analyst specializing in Turkey, based on charges including threatening the stability and endangering the security of Saudi Arabia. Al-Shamri met regularly with journalists from prominent news outlets and had appeared as a political commentator on television. Mohammed bin Salman's creation of an entertainment industry has been adopted alongside advancements for women and youth. While extensive and important, these changes have also helped obscure the dramatic curtailing of civil and political rights since he became crown prince in 2017. While the emerging entertainment industry was being lauded internationally, Saudi authorities were simultaneously carrying out waves of arbitrary arrests of dissidents, activists, intellectuals, and royal family members. Comedians performing in Riyadh should speak out against Saudi Arabia's serious rights abuses, or they risk bolstering the Saudi government's well-funded efforts to launder its image. This whitewashing comes amid significant increase in repression, including a crackdown on free speech, which many of these comedians defend, but people in Saudi Arabia are completely denied. Okay, this is incredible. I fucking love Zach Woods. Prototype, thank you for the 3 months. Chris, thank you for the Prime. Tom Brady claims he's not getting $75 million from Saudi Arabia to play flag football. All right, let me look at that afterwards.
Guys, it's that special time of year. It's the Riyadh Comedy Festival. And all of your favorite comedians are performing at the pleasure of Turki Al-Sheikh. And he is the head of the entertainment authority over there. And he has so many people thrown in prison because they tweeted stuff he didn't like about the soccer team or whatever, that there's a wing of a prison nicknamed after him where they hang people by their heels from the ceiling. Now, there's a lot of drips, killjoys, and dweebazoids who are saying, oh, they shouldn't do comedy over there because it's whitewashing a regime that just in June killed a journalist and killed Jamal Khashoggi and played a big role in 9/11. Shut up. Name one comedian who hasn't whored themselves out to a dictator. Sinbad.
I'm sorry, I have to pause this video. What the fuck are you on? 9/11 has nothing to do with Saudi. What? I don't even think anything after that statement is worth reading because clearly you don't know anything. Do we have a Saudi agent in chat? The princes love, it's just because they love comedy too. Because all of you villainize Saudi. Oh my God. 9/11. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that Iraq did 9/11? Keese, I have a serious question for you. Do you believe that the U.S. invaded Iraq because they did 9/11? No. Well, that's good. We got someone else saying Saudi. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. I don't even. Here, I'm gonna link you something. I'm gonna link you a couple pieces. This one's not too long, okay? Because I'm not gonna get into this right now. I'm gonna keep watching this video, but here's another piece, another good piece. Here you go.
In the 80s, would go perform for dying Nazis hidden out in Argentina. Mr. Bean would do private shows for Idi Amin. Me and Bibi Netanyahu have collaborated. I pitched him a prank show called The West Bank, where it's hilarious. Like, people in masks show up and eject people from their homes, and they're terrified. They just traumatize these families, and then they can never come home. And it's been going on for years, but this season has been like action-packed. And it's a prank show, but there's also a true crime element because it violates international law and people have been killed a lot. Let's not get our, moral panties yanked up, wedged high in our rumps. Human Rights Watch has been begging the comedians not to participate in the whitewashing of the horrors that are ongoing in Saudi Arabia. Ugh, what a cockblock Human Rights Watch is for comedy. Let's have some fun, let's have some yucks, and let's not look too closely at anything. I'm a hypocrite too.
I'm a hypocrite too.
I will never forgive Donald.
I mean, yeah, he's obviously, if you can't tell, he's being sarcastic. He is pointing out the fact that no, it's not just going over there and doing some comedy. Like, no, it's not just because princes love comedy too. I know he was being sarcastic. It just always, sometimes I feel on Twitch, I always have to clarify. Just, you never know who's like, oh, this guy's bad. All right. Are we just picking numbers out? What is this? How much money for Barstool, Gruden, and Greg Olson, 88, to go coach play flag football in Saudi Arabia?
$75 million he got paid to do this. The fastest growing game in the world, flag football. The question obviously is, how much for each of you? Coach, to go out there and coach this flag football game? Greg, if they said, hey, old man, dust it off. We want you to get back in here, play some football. Greg, what's your price? Would you do this? And by the way, this is weird. Brady's saying anybody who's like, this was normal, it wasn't. It was weird, but go.
He got $75 million?
$75 million.
Is that real?
Yes.
Wow.
That's what I was told.
Good for him.
Is it because it's higher than 75
guys
million?
Stealing your job, stealing your flag football league.
I hope I can get a job as an offensive coordinator on a flag team.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much? What's your number, Coach?
Well, if I could coach Tom Brady in flag football, I'll do it for free. That would be a great.
Tom Brady said, are we just picking numbers out of a hat and reporting them? While we're breaking news, Elvis is doing the halftime show and Babe Ruth is going to sign some autographs for fans. Also, I heard Dave prefers floppy pizza. Who cares about facts, right? For context, Tom Brady's coming out of retirement, sort of, to join Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb, Max Crosby, Rob Gronkowski, Sauce Gardner, Myles Garrett, and others for the Fanatics Flag Football Classic, a competitive flag football tournament taking place during Riyadh season in Saudi Arabia. It will be Brady's first football action since retiring 3 years ago. Yeah, do you think Brady's just doing that for fun? Pete Carroll, Sean Payton, and Kyle Shanahan will be coaching the three teams. Let me say something too, okay? So I think there are a lot of rich people like Tom Brady who do not believe that they should even be questioned about any of their business dealings. That he feels entitled. He feels entitled to be immune from criticism. And sorry, fuck Dave Portnoy also. I fucking hate this guy. Like, not that he gives a shit, okay? Dave Portnoy apparently they turned down $10 million to attend a boxing match, him and Dan Katz, because they wanted $15 million. They turned down 10 because they wanted 15. So this is, I don't think, Dave Portnoy being like having any type of backbone here or anything. But I think this is I think this is what's going on. Gotta get rid of that. I think this is what's going on with people who were like getting upset at me for calling out these comedians who are performing at Riyadh Comedy Festival. I do think that there is this belief that rich and famous people are entitled to not be questioned for and criticized for the decisions that they're making, where it's like, look, if you're making this decision, if you have done the calculations and you've decided to take the bag, then you are not immune from criticism. Like, you are going to have to deal with people expressing how they feel about that. Right? It's like, I'm sorry if you love Bill Burr. I love Bill Burr too. And Bill Burr having been great doesn't mean that Bill Burr is immune from any type of criticism. Al Phosby, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Why did I get 2 gifted subs from Valorant? Like the game? Hello? Thank you to Valorant. Oh, it's a promo thing? Oh. I'm like, is Valorant here? Is Valorant in chat? Are they like, yeah, she's really speaking our language? Dragon Army, thank you for the 5. Valorant, thank you. Thank you for the 5 years subs. Valorant, thank you for another gifted. Timur, thank you for the 9 months. Oh, they've done this with, I forgot about this. They give like one or random amount of subs for every 5. It's September, baby. That's right. Mike from PA got so many. Mike from PA is an expert at shilling. He is proudly an expert. It just sucks because it's the type of shit Bill Burr would usually be critical of. Yeah, and I think that's why people are like, Bill, why? Bill, this doesn't seem to line up with what you preach, you know? Lazy Gains Gaming, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. I remember last year I got a 50 roll on, oh yeah. Gotta make everything Gamba. You spend money to Gamba. They also got WrestleMania in 2027. WWE erodes the meaning of WrestleMania with sports washing move to Saudi Arabia. Wrestling fans deserve to attend WrestleMania without the fear of persecution factoring into their decision, like in Saudi Arabia. From the announcement of WWE's 10-year partnership with the Saudi Arabia Ministry of Sport in March 2018 to the expansion of that deal with the Saudi Arabia General Entertainment Authority just over a year later, it felt inevitable that WrestleMania would end up being held there at some point. That waiting game ended earlier this month during a live stream on WWE's official YouTube channel that carried the eerie appearance of a press conference without any members of the media present. Former ESPN broadcaster Joe Tessitore lauded the sports washing relationship between the world's most popular pro wrestling company and the nation laundering its reputation and often highlighted poor human rights record. A collection of WWE officials, legends, and current wrestlers stood along the stage. I watched already knowing this was coming. A lot of others did too, evidenced by the flood of comments in the stream's chat saying WWE sold out, criticisms of the Saudi kingdom, and the copious amounts of pride flag emojis. The motivations for the move aren't hard to decipher. WWE makes roughly $50 million for each event it holds in Saudi Arabia, all of which feature varying levels of political and cultural propaganda praising the Saudi crown and cultural reforms within the nation. The company is rumored to be pulling in hundreds of millions of dollars for hosting WrestleMania. Political motivation cannot be ignored either, considering the long, cozy relationship between WWE and the president and the deep ties between his administration and the Saudi government, among other Middle East nations. There's no denying that WWE fans in Saudi Arabia are passionate about the brand of pro wrestling WWE offers and should have the opportunity, like all of us, to enjoy that in their home nation. WrestleMania shouldn't be reserved for North America, but this deal isn't about the nation's citizens. It's about laundering the reputation of an authoritarian government that criminalizes queer, trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming identities, silences journalists, and jails advocates of women's rights within its borders.
Fresh off winning the presidential election, Donald Trump appeared at...
This is how Saudi Arabia bought Trump and what they want. Some more Perfect Union video.
At a UFC event, flanked by bullet-headed UFC CEO Dana White
Mistake maker,
and Elon Musk, who had just spent $270 million.
Abby Sun, thank you for the prime.
But there was another person there who wielded as much influence and wealth as pretty much anyone alive. Yasser Al-Rumayyan, the head of the Public Investment Fund, the Saudi state-run sovereign wealth fund, which controls about $930 billion. Al-Rumayyan could claim some degree of ownership of practically everyone and everything around him that November night. From UFC, which was planning some splashy events for Saudi Arabia, to Elon Musk, whose companies had long been recipients of Saudi investment capital, and Trump himself, a stalwart Saudi ally whose political, economic, and family interests had come to depend on Saudi largesse.
It's clear that Saudi Arabia has been investing in Trump and Trump.
Have you seen that EA is getting bought by Saudi Public Investment Fund for $50 billion too? Yeah, this is news from today that EA reportedly closing in on a $50 billion deal to go private. The site sources say investors include private equity firm Silver Lake and Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund. Affinity Partners, an investment firm led by Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is also said to be in the mix. Flunky, thank you for the
World for a long time.
I love the Saudis. Many are in this building.
Lobbyists representing the Saudi government paid for an estimated 500 rooms at President Trump's D.C. hotel.
The Live Golf Invitational.
The Saudi-backed golf tour.
At the Trump National Doral.
Have a good time, everybody. They buy apartments from me. They spend $40 million, $50 million.
Trump Tower, Jeddah.
Am I supposed to dislike them? I like them very much.
And foreign governments, they understand. They're dealing with.
Yeah, I'll never forget one of the royal family members, one of the I honestly can't remember his name. Used to come into this club that I worked at when I was a hostess, and there were like numerous occasions that he just straight up assaulted waitresses, was like very verbally abusive, and because obviously they spent a lot of money and were high priority clients, the company like did nothing about it. I remember you telling this story. Yeah, I mean, there were a couple clubs I worked at that would host Saudi royal family members, but this one in particular I remember. And it was finally one instance that was so bad. And the waitress, I think maybe there were like legal threats involved. And then the company finally blacklisted this Saudi client.
With the transactional president.
Crown Prince, thank you very much. Thank you for being here.
And now, as we head into a second Trump administration, the question is, what more do they want?
How would you describe the relationship between the United States and Saudi Arabia?
I think it's fine, but with me it will be GREAT, great.
The host of the FIFA World Cup 2034 will be Saudi Arabia.
What we're seeing with Saudi Arabia is unprecedented because of the sheer amount of money that they put in.
Kareem Zidane is an investigative sports journalist.
They're investing in absolutely everything.
All Ramayan's
Oh, I forgot to show something that I wanted to show in relation to the film festival. Here's a post by Atsuko Okatsuka. She's a comedian. FYI, there are more of us that said no to the Riyadh Comedy Festival in Saudi Arabia. Here's the offer I got back in July. Hi team, per our conversation attached and below, please find the offer Atsuko to perform at the inaugural Riyadh Comedy Festival. The Riyadh Comedy Festival is being produced by Sila Company, a leading event producer in Saudi Arabia, renowned for organizing Riyadh season. Offers are coming in through Redacted. The dates we would target if you are into this would be in between Portland and Denver, 10-2 to 10-5. Fee Redacted for you to perform at a 600 and 900 seater. You could do 60 to 75 minutes. You would do 60 to 75 minutes. They would also provide 2 hotel rooms and local ground. We are responsible for flights. There will need to be a reasonable number of posts to support the date, both story and grid. This is essentially an endorsement as they will have global marketing for the festival. The money is coming straight from the Crown Prince, who actively executes journalists, people with non-legal drug offenses, bloggers, etc., without due process. A lot of the you can't say anything anymore comedians are doing the festival. They had to adhere to censorship rules to do it. Content restrictions. Artists shall not prepare or perform any material that may be... Okay, this answers the fucking question too of like, is anybody going to go on stage and say anything? Artists shall not prepare or perform any material that may be considered to degrade, defame, or bring into public disrepute disrepute, contempt, scandal, embarrassment, or ridicule. A, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, including its leadership, public figures, culture, or people. B, the Saudi royal family, legal system, or government. And C, any religion, religious tradition, religious figure, or religious practice. Isn't that interesting? The free speech, anti-cancel culture comedians who are part of that lineup who are going to have to adhere to this censorship, these content restrictions. Free speech doesn't pay as well. Yeah, unfortunately not. That's what comedy's all about, baby.
Appearance at the UFC fight wasn't just about Trump. Sports have become a key part of Saudi Arabia's investment and influence peddling strategy. Kareem and his colleagues at Play of the Game mapped over 910 sponsorships from Saudi entities in 2024 across the globe. There's the ownership of the Premier League's Newcastle United, the creation of Live Golf, a competitor to the PGA Tour, sponsorship for the Women's Tennis Association, backing Formula One's Aston Martin. There's MMA, esports, equestrianism, wrestling, cycling, billiards, and a potential new venture into boxing.
As a matter of fact, it might be easier to list the sports that Saudi Arabia hasn't invested in. Honestly, I can't think of one at the moment.
The Saudis would call it investing. Others call it sports washing.
Sports washing is the deployment of sports as a means of reputation laundering. When countries use sports and major sports events, for example, to distract from human rights abuses. When Saudi Arabia invests in sports, it's really looking for geopolitical influence. It's looking to recraft its own global image. It might not reap the most significant monetary returns, but I don't think that's what they're interested in from sports. They're looking at influence, and I think they're doing a damn good job about it, as much as I don't want to say that.
And this is happening.
Most of the material these cancel culture comedians do is about trans people, so the content restrictions from the Crown Prince won't interfere with that. They're like, oh yeah, no, that's fair game.
With other Saudi investments too.
What's your take on the unabashed expansion of the Saudi investment fund into Silicon Valley?
In 2016, then Deputy Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS, made a well-publicized trip to Silicon Valley. By 2018, Saudi Arabia was the single largest investor in US startups. But where was that money going, and what was it doing? Let me give you an example. Twitter. When Twitter was a public firm, the Saudi Kingdom Holding Company was its largest outside shareholder, owning a bigger part than even co-founder and longtime CEO Jack Dorsey. But it wasn't just a financial relationship, as I've covered in my reporting. Twitter has long been an important place for the Saudi government to propagandize on behalf of MBS's economic program, flood Saudi-related discussions with posts from pro-regime trolls, and track and harass dissidents, some of whom have been doxxed, arrested, and tortured. In 2014, Twitter's leadership learned that a key MBS advisor was running a spy ring inside Twitter's San Francisco headquarters. Twitter never publicly accounted for its role in fostering the Saudi spy ring. Jack Dorsey enjoyed a chummy meeting with MBS just 6 months after the Twitter CEO had been told by the FBI that his company had an espionage problem. They weaponized their investment, used it to spy on, target, and harass critics. And they did it all without any consequences. And their investment continues today.
Let's fight.
So back to the fight. And another guest, Elon Musk. When Twitter...
I think the other thing I'm thinking about in response to people being like, oh yeah, well, I don't know. If you're going to be principled about Saudi Arabia, then why stop there? Or the other take being, well, everywhere is bad. Look at the United States. I think then it's like, okay, so why then bother with any effort? Why at all try and have any morals or principles in the choices that you make if it's all immoral. if all entertainment money is blood money, if everything is bad under capitalism, then it's like, why even put in any effort to make choices? Why do anything? You know?
Went private under Musk, Kingdom Holding Company rolled its shares into the new private entity and became its second largest investor after Musk. But Twitter wasn't the only tech giant receiving backing from the Saudis. In April 2023, Sanibel, the venture capital arm of the Saudi Public Investment Fund, did something surprising. It published a list of dozens of American venture capital and private equity firms it had partnered with, showing just how widely the kingdom's money was being spread around. Tech, AI, surveillance, media. But the influence purchasing campaign doesn't end in Silicon Valley.
I would like to bring up the CEO of Affinity Partners and former senior advisor to the White House, Jared Kushner.
That's Jared Kushner, the husband of Trump's daughter, Ivanka. He served as a senior advisor in the first Trump administration and was everywhere. And by all accounts, he had a lot of influence on his father-in-law. But he's known for one thing above all else.
It seemed as if from the get-go that Jared Kushner was charged with cultivating the relationship with the Saudis.
Virginia Cantor
Even to dinner with the Kushners?
is Chief Ethics Counsel at Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington.
It appears to be that at the end of the administration,
That line lives
the
my head
payoff
rent-free.
was a $2 billion investment in this investment fund.
Just months after leaving the White House in 2021, Kushner's newly minted investment group, Affinity Partners, secured a $2 billion commitment from the Saudi Public Investment Fund, or PIF. The news raised a lot of eyebrows.
Some next level sleaze and grift going on right in front of our eyes.
This is just putting a price tag on American foreign policy.
I've been in this business 40 years. This is extraordinary, unprecedented. I've never seen anything like it.
The reason it was so egregious, he had no experience in that field.
The panel responsible for screening potential PIF investments reportedly voiced serious concerns about Kushner's lack of experience. But the board was overridden by MBS, the de facto leader of Saudi Arabia. That news raised even more eyebrows.
Isn't that a nice story of friendship? Things you do for your bros?
MBS proved to be a close ally to Kushner in the first Trump administration, working closely with him on various Middle East diplomatic negotiations. They worked so closely, in fact, that MBS reportedly told others he had Kushner in his pocket.
It appears to be a payoff based on Mr. Kushner's dealings with the Saudi government and particularly MBS during the Trump administration.
A Senate investigation found that Kushner's fund raked in $157 million in management fees, all while generating no return on investment for his clients. Jared, of course, sees no problems with the $2 billion transaction.
For my critics, what I say is point to a single decision we made that wasn't in the interest of America.
Okay, I'll point to one. How about letting an ally kill a Washington Post columnist, Jared?
Do you know the thing is I don't even think, I think Jared Kushner, when he says everything I'm doing is in the interest of America, I think he means that. It's just that America is rich people like him. Being American means being a hyper individualist who only cares about making yourself richer. Like, there are people who view America and what it means to be American as you know, I get mine and you get yours. It's the invisible hand. Yeah, it's in the interest of America if America is Jared Kushner. It's the American dream.
What was really troubling about the assassination of Jamal Khashoggi.
Yeah, now Jake Chapper cares about colleagues being killed by a foreign state. You know, if I had $1 for every time there was such an egregious instance of hypocrisy, I would probably have as much money as Saudi Arabia offered Aziz Ansari to perform at the Riyadh Comedy Festival. No, I would have as much money as the Cristiano Ronaldo deal. Lazy Gains, thank you for the tier 1.
There was every indication that it was carried out by the Saudis. Basically, Kushner and President Trump gave MBS a pass by virtue of not, calling them out.
Why are you siding with the Saudis over your own intelligence?
Because it's America first for me.
That definitely set the tone for how they were going to deal with human rights violations by the Saudis. And it wasn't just that, there were other incidents.
And the list is a long one. There is the use of his second presidential veto,
a resolution putting an end to the U.S. military involvement in Yemen,
allowing continued U.S. support to the Saudi-backed war in Yemen. There's his abandonment of the Iran nuclear deal.
The United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal.
Saudi Arabia views Iran as one of its biggest enemies and, was very much adverse to the Obama negotiated Iran nuclear deal. And, that was disrupted as part of the Trump administration.
There's the $110 billion Kushner negotiated arms deal between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia.
There was a blockade involving Qatar.
The president today is siding with the Saudis. The crisis critical to the U.S. Qatar, home to a key U.S. base with 8,000 U.S. service members.
And so this unprecedented closeness is being interpreted in a new light since the 2021 investment from the Saudis to the one person who always has Trump's ear.
Is it both a reward for how Kushner guided the Trump administration's foreign policy regarding Saudi Arabia in the past administration? And does it look like a payoff for how he can influence President-elect Trump in his future dealings with the Saudi Arabia?
Kushner has said he won't take a formal role in the second administration, but reportedly is looking to be an informal advisor on Middle East matters. And the investments in Trump world haven't stopped.
And the primary,
so he can he can envision the amazing seaside properties that can be built in Gaza.
Financial backer of Leave Gulf is the Sovereign Wealth Fund. And they engaged in deals with the various Trump golf
thank you
courses.
for the tier 1.
And it's pretty clear, when you have his sons going overseas in this transition period to lock down deals, it's a way of signaling that Trump is open for business. And if you want to be favored, you better be first in line.
When you have someone like Trump, he tends to take the existing corruption in Washington and just turns it up to 11.
Matt Duss is Executive Vice President at the Center for International Policy.
Mohammed bin Salman, when he visited the Oval Office and Trump pulled out that famous poster with all the different weapons that were on sale as if it was, the side of a good humor truck. Here are all the various ice cream and delicious treats that are on sale.
$3 billion, $533 million, $525 million. That's peanuts for you.
And that was funny, but it was also, I think, a great demonstration of how Trump thinks about this. It's just a relationship based on, okay, what are you going to buy from us? What are we going to get from this?
Since 1945, the Saudi-U.S. relationship has been defined by
Yeah, it really is amazing when you see journalists who otherwise are great, just have fucking blinders on with Israel, where the exact same things that they'll point out between the United States and countries like Saudi Arabia, they don't identify with the United States and Israel.
Power's willingness to overlook pretty much anything its oil-rich ally did. The U.S. got another military foothold in a sensitive region and influence over global energy markets. But this alliance between an unmatched global hegemon and a repressive theocracy has corrupted both sides.
I mean, there were problems with this relationship going back many years, just as there are more deep-seated problems in the way our foreign policy and our policy in general is formulated. the various avenues of influence that very, very wealthy interests have. And I think the influence that the Saudi regime has been able to garner is a reflection of that much bigger problem.
The media rights for Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit are under the Embracer Group, which the Saudis have a $1 billion stake in. Man, the Saudis really have... They really have their hands in a lot.
And they are exercising that influence, especially in their efforts to secure a U.S.-Saudi defense pact.
Securing an agreement in which the United States committed and guaranteed to protect Saudi Arabia, it's a sign of approval from a global superpower. It's a kind of normalization, of Saudi Arabia to say that you're just another normal country, and this is how normal countries behave.
Saudi Arabia has worked hard during the Biden administration to secure a defense pact with the U.S., despite Biden's promises to get tough on the Saudis.
Make them pay the price and make them, in fact, the pariah that they are.
They came close to getting it.
And I think we're going to see that kind of approach continuing, essentially trying to bid up the United States to get as much out of the United States in terms of commitments and support into the future. Would the United States get anything that's remotely worth a commitment of sending young American women and men to defend this regime? I think the answer is clearly no.
As the second Trump administration begins, with all of its financial ties to the country, what more could be on the table for Saudi Arabia?
Certainly, we should be aware of the acute danger of Saudi influence in a Trump administration. But ultimately, if we really want to solve this problem, we need to understand
where they get all their money, oil.
And that it goes much deeper and is much more longstanding than just with Trump.
These billions pouring into sports leagues, entertainment companies, tech firms, what does it actually buy?
We've become very good friends over a fairly short period of time.
It appears to buy influence.
We are with Saudi Arabia. We're staying with Saudi Arabia.
It buys silence.
Mr. President, we address the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It buys power.
Deputy Crown Prince, thank you very much. This was a great day and a great honor.
What price did we really pay? What price did the world pay?
And now it's time to keep our eyes on just what it could buy in a second Trump administration.
We really have a great friendship, a great relationship, and I think we'll probably only get better.
Great. Great. I'm surprised he didn't spell Grate. Okay. Alrighty. U.S. comedian Shane Gillis said on his secret podcast that he turned down a significant bag for an appearance at the festival, even if they doubled their offer. I took a principled stand. You don't 9/11 your friends. Yeah, the other thing is it's like these people are so fucking rich already. They're so... It was like when Beyonce was paid, what, $25 million to perform in Dubai. Her first performance. It had been her first performance in 5 years. They have... So, like, there's... you know what I think one of the worst phrases is? I think "get your bag" has become one of the worst phrases because people use that all the time to excuse people having no principles whatsoever in the business that they do. And a lot of times it's applied to people who are already fucking rich. Like, get your bag? Why are you saying that about Louis C.K.? Why are you saying get your bag, king, in a non-ironic way about somebody who already has a fucking huge bag? It's like the word sellout is out of our cultural lexicon now. Oh, I see. The word sellout is out of our cultural lexicon. Now it's just get your bag. Look, you know what? These comedians need to get their bag. What do you mean these comedians need to get their bag? What do you mean by the word need? And also, why are you acting as if these aren't some of the wealthiest comedians alive? Like, they got private jet money, okay? Get your bag should be limited to wage slaves working at large corporations, not the wealthy. The concept of rich people getting their bag is not a concept that should exist. Rise and grind. Aziz Ansari is wealthy. They're all wealthy. Yes. Some of them are some of the richest comedians, like Louis C.K. and Dave Chappelle. They're like rich. Get your bag has become a big mentality in all walks of life, and it's gross and getting grosser. Yes. Get the bag used to mean do a silly Marvel DC movie, not wash your hands with blood. And it's like people would say get that bag about celebrities who will go do a stupid Marvel film or like a big franchise movie, so then they can go do their like auteur work. They can go do their little indie films that don't have the budget. And so it's like, okay, you go make a bunch of money. You go make a bunch of money doing these big studio movies, and then you go do your like actual your work that might win you awards. Like what I don't mean that's how like what get your bag actually means. I just mean I think one of the origins of like the internet's usage of get your bag in relation to celebrities was in that way. Aziz has a movie coming out with Keanu Reeves. He's not hurting for money. No, he's good. Also, he's got that TV residual money. Like he has a lot of money. Yeah, his estimated worth from like a couple years ago was at 25 million. It used to be for artists just coming up or gold diggers for 90-year-old malignant capitalists. Like, yes, queen, get that bag. Yes, that's a great way of putting it. He has can say no money. Absolutely. He has can say no money. I mean, like, not to make this about me, but I am not, like, I don't have the kind of money these comedians have. And yet there are deals that have come my way that I can say no to. Like, I say no to not just because I try and be consistent, but also because it's like, do I really need to, like, is that what I sell out on? I'm so desperate, like I can't afford my next meal that I just have to take this? No. Get that bag, girl. Yeah, I'm doing IRL with the Crown Prince. And look, I don't know. We all can be hypocrites, okay? Humans can be full of contradictions, and nobody is perfect. Nobody's perfect, as Miley Cyrus sang once upon a time. But I think here's what holds true, okay? You should try and be morally consistent. Okay, if that's like what you care about, if you purport to have morals, to care about that kind of thing, you know, to place value in having values, you should try to be consistent in that. And also, if you do something, despite, you know, despite like not being a, if you do something that goes against like the morals that you have expressed, right? The type of person that you are. It doesn't matter if you are otherwise good, like that otherwise you are pretty consistent. You're not immune to being criticized for your decisions. Like, these are choices that we make. And, you know, not one of us has a perfect record, but especially like if you are a public figure, if you are in a position where you have fans, you know, where you have people who are reacting to the choices that you make, they get to do that. And you don't get to be, you don't get to be upset that people are upset that they have something to say about the actions that you're taking. And the hope is that, look, it's like, if you are a pretty morally consistent person, if you're pretty good overall, then hopefully it's not, you know, it's not taken as, oh, you're just a total rotten piece of shit. That, you know, even if you're being criticized, even if people are like, hey, can you recognize why this choice that you made is problematic? Even if that's happening, that if you're otherwise someone who, you know, tries to put their best foot forward and does good work, that counts as well, right? Like, it's not a shield. Doesn't make you immune. Good decisions don't give a pass for bad ones. Yeah.
Detectives proceeding.
Yeah. Okay. I want to see these updates in the David, in this case involving Celeste Rivas, the teenager who was found in the trunk of David, the singer's Tesla.
Cautiously as they investigate the death of a missing California teenager whose body was found in a car belonging to popular singer-songwriter David. How 15-year-old Celeste Rivas died and whether a crime was committed remain crucial questions that sources tell ABC News could take weeks, even months, to answer.
It's an ongoing investigation. We have a lot of resources dedicated to bringing it to a conclusion.
Rivas had been missing for...
Also, I've seen more anecdotes and more reports come out that, like, people who hung out with, who knew David, were under the impression that Celeste Rivas was his girlfriend, that she was around, right? Like, she wasn't hidden under the floorboards. She was, they made public appearances. Obviously they were on stream together. They went to parties. They appeared as a couple.
For a year and a half, the LA County Medical Examiner unable to determine a cause of death so far,
they
now
haven't
waiting
arrested
on
him
lab
yet.
tests to come back. Her badly decomposed remains wrapped in plastic discovered inside the trunk of this black Tesla that had been abandoned in the Hollywood Hills. The registered owner...
Yeah, apparently she had fake IDs, multiple fake IDs.
David Anthony Burke, who goes by the stage name David. The medical examiner revealing Rivas had a tattoo reading "shh" on her index finger. David has the same one. It's a popular design among performers. Investigators were seen searching the residence he was renting last week and allegedly removing a computer. The 20-year-old musician has not been named as a suspect.
In order for there to be a prosecution, law enforcement has to find some key pieces of information when it comes to a potential homicide. First, they actually need to figure out if it's a homicide or not, and the autopsy report will help give them that. Then they have to figure out the who and the how in order to bring charges.
And while a source close to the investigation says all promotion for David's new album has been put on pause, Billboard reporting streaming of his music has doubled since news of his possible connection to Rivas's death emerged. Some fans now pointing out disturbing images seen in his music videos, like One More Dance.
Yeah, I don't know why it's interesting he hasn't publicly been named as a suspect. Right? You know, internally, I have to believe that internally he is looked at as a suspect, as the primary suspect. I mean, obviously we don't have all of the evidence right now. We only know what's been reported on, but there seems to be enough connection that or enough to show that they were in a relationship, and she was very, very much so underage. She was found in his car. She was wrapped up in plastic. So again, not trying to make assumptions, but that to me indicates that she didn't put herself there. Right? Like, even if he isn't a murderer, he's still a fucking sex offender. What the hell is happening? Yeah, so maybe it's just that they are waiting for whatever is enough of a smoking gun to bring him in.
Which shows a bloody David and a body being placed in a trunk.
I don't know. I am not a lawyer. I am not in law enforcement. I'm not a cop. But does anyone here know where I can find my friend Mary? Looking for Mary, but I'm not a cop.
Recently, mourners gathered at a vigil for the California teen, authorities returning her body to her family this week.
Now, sources telling us they have the evidence that they need from her body. And while they wait on those lab results, again, the promotion for David's new album has stopped and the U.S. portion of his tour has been canceled. Guys.
Kana, thank you.
Yeah, they also got a search warrant at a local address in connection with Celeste Rivas's death. That address, which is where David had been staying. So they went in, they reportedly recovered several items of evidence. They are following up on leads. And I said this before too. But like, whether or not he is responsible for her death, it very much appears that there was a relationship between the two of them that would be criminal in and of itself. Wait, this video? Why is it bad? Wait, why? What's the melon? What's the melon? I'm just going to watch it.
Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's obviously time to talk about David. David Anthony Burke, or David stylized as D4VD, is a young singer, producer, and songwriter who...
Wait, what is the melon? Is it because he's bald? Melon is his nickname. Is it Melon his nickname because he's bald? Because bald. Okay. Okay. Bald, big head. All right. So then what's Hassan's nickname? Opposite of bald and big head. What's the opposite of melon? Kiwi? Kiwi. Kiwi. Oh, that's fucking hilarious. got kiwi, we got melon.
Has been on the come up for several years now. And in fact, he just dropped his debut full-length LP back in April, and he was actually just on tour behind that album. But now that tour is seemingly over because about a week ago now, we saw the first thread pop up of what has been one of the most insane music industry stories unraveling ever. Because again, while this man was moving from tour date to tour date to tour date, a dead body was discovered in an impounded Tesla registered in his name. Even though this is obviously very shocking information, initially, David wasn't getting a whole lot of blame or allegations thrown his way. In fact, his tour was just kind of continuing. After all, this car had been impounded and obviously was out of David's possession. Presumably, this was all just some kind of like insane coincidence. David, as a successful music industry recording artist, would have been just like too busy and engrossed in his own career to actually have anything to do with, right? Like, there's no possible way this could be some kind of insane murder cover-up, and David would have some kind of personal connection to this situation or person. But then, upon the discovery of this body, we began to get more information that raised some very huge red flags and concerns, like the body that was discovered in this Tesla was that of a teen girl. Authorities described the remains as having been dismembered or mutilated in some fashion. There are also allegations of a matching finger tattoo of some sort, and apparently the body has been ID'd as one Celeste Rivas Hernandez, someone who there has been a missing persons report out on since April of last year. Now, there are a lot of headlines saying how, you know, oh, this is a 15-year-old girl who was missing, but there's like some confusion around the age discussion on this topic, because it's important to remember that Celeste was 13 in 2024 when she had gone missing. And yes, while there are headlines and articles talking about how she was 15, given the state of decomposition her body was in upon discovery, she most likely died when she was 14. Now, it's off of these small bits of information and Celeste's ID that the internet began to start doing some sleuthing around David, and very quickly found that David and Celeste actually had quite a history together, a lot of which has been pieced together through a series of old TikToks and Discord messages, Instagram posts and stories. But maybe the most damning piece of evidence to have resurfaced in the midst of all of this controversy is an old Twitch clip that we will play to you.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to clarify that I have not said, oh yeah, no, he definitely killed her. You know, I don't like to try and speculate on serious matters like this, but what has been really alarming and just concerning as all hell is how young this girl was, and that she was around him, and you know, the circumstantial evidence, text messages, Twitch chat appearances, or Twitch appearances, her being backstage, like they had a relationship. That much is known, right? That there was definitely a relationship there, which is awful. Like, that is bad. That is bad. That this 20-year-old had some type of relationship with this child. And the other thing that just keeps, the other thing that I think it's shouldn't be lost in this story, and I hope that as more details come out and more is known, is who around him enabled this in the way that, like, we have seen other celebrities be enabled in the in the bad things that they were doing, and who, whether managers, agents, those who were closest to him, like who knew what was going on here.
You now, where David appears alongside a girl that seems to be Celeste.
I media trained you. No, you didn't. That's controversial.
It's controversial of raping kids.
Really good.
Okay,
It's been a good one. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Mwah, 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 mwah. Oh my! Delete everything. Delete everything. Everything goes.
I mean, not only does this person look just like the girl in these missing person photos, the chat on this stream seems to be aware of not only their dynamic cracking some Epstein jokes as well, but just before the clip ends, someone in chat seems to be clearly aware that this person's name is Celeste. I mean, even without factoring in that we're possibly watching David here interacting with a girl who is now dead on camera in this clip, this situation is so strange, because what is somebody who is of David's position, a successful legal adult music industry recording artist, doing streaming late night with a girl who is clearly not even a high school graduate, who must be in his care to some degree.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I've been saying with this case.
Having to end a stream with her abruptly, saying this footage needs to be deleted after she makes an edgy joke, and saying, I media trained you. It boggles the mind, and it just makes you wonder, like, where are the adults? Where are the trustworthy authority figures? I mean, it's very telling that we're in a time where TMZ is posting clips of somebody who is allegedly this girl's former teacher talking to his students about how this girl he used to teach her, and she met.
Yeah, I saw some reports that friends of David thought that Celeste was his 19-year-old girlfriend who went to USC. Here's a Fox report. Okay. According to TMZ, friends of David, whose legal name is David Anthony Burke, believe 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez was a 19-year-old student at USC. His friends told the publication they frequently saw the couple together and believed they were romantically involved. The friends described David as a very shy, quiet person, and that Rivas Hernandez seemed to mirror that as well. They told TMZ they were shocked she was underage because she was presented at multiple age-restricted events. Law enforcement sources previously confirmed to TMZ that Rivas Hernandez had multiple fake IDs, which could have given the teen access into such events. According to TMZ, David's friends said they didn't know too much about her and that they only saw her with David at social events. Yeah, apparently there's also another woman named Celeste who I guess had some connection to David.
This rapper over social media.
That's her in my classroom in front of this poster right here. When I taught her, she met this dude on social media. He was a rapper in LA. He came and got her. She ran away from home. She was gone for like a month. The cops found her in Hollywood, brought her back to our school. She came back to our school, kind of told people this story. She disappeared again in May of that year. And then I found out yesterday that she's now dead in that rapper's car, cut into pieces. You want to know how they met? I feel like I just said it. Social media.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I still don't like this. I know I covered this for like 30 minutes the other day. I still just have, this makes me uncomfortable, the tone, the way that this is being the way that this is being presented.
I mean, obviously he's trying to sort of like scare them straight about, you know, apparently who may be able to reach them or persuade them of whatever over Instagram or whatever, you know, channel they're being contacted through by somebody who might be in David's position, someone older, someone with money, someone with influence. But I mean, just think of how many people had to drop the fucking ball in order for it to get to this point. But yeah, it's very strange and it's very concerning because it does seem like, looking at a lot of different posts and stuff that has come up in retrospect, that this was, at least on some level, like a bit of an open secret among the most devoted segments of David's fan base. And yet this was not being called out effectively to a point where something was actually being done about it. And again, I stress, David was not like some crazy, obscure, completely underground figure that like nobody had ever heard of. Like, this guy had a very
except for me
large and respectable social media following, had done some pretty big interviews with traditional media and sort of new media and podcast media. I mean, I admit, as somebody who regularly covers music, I myself was not aware of this either, but also I've never formally reviewed David's stuff and never dug into him because personally I just don't find his music that interesting. However, there were clearly a lot of people out there who did, and the fact that this was just going over the heads of so many or just not registering to a lot of people as a sign of something bad.
Yeah. The other thing is, my mother loves the saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. And it's awful seeing comments and posts from the last couple years of people, you know, fans or just whoever, like people on the internet, making mention to this illegal relationship between Celeste and David. So as far as where there's smoke, there's fire, seems to be enough here to tell me that there was something bad going on, that this relationship was abusive, that this was not, you know, wasn't just like friends hanging out, you know, wasn't some innocent friendship.
Is just strange, especially given that in the wake of Celeste being ID'd, fans have not been having a hard time finding a bunch of different context clues, be it in some of David's biggest songs like Romantic Homicide, a track that when you look on YouTube was apparently released on Celeste's birthday. There's also been a leaked Celeste song with some pretty disturbing lyrics laced into it as well. And these things are concerning enough and honestly are just the tip of the iceberg in terms of like the various connections people have been making. But as of right now, as of me shooting this video currently at this moment, David seemingly has not been arrested. The biggest repercussions that he's seen as a result of all of this is that, you know, his tour is just like done. And authorities have affirmed that there is an investigation going on right now into all of this, but what direction that's going in at the moment is kind of unclear.
A lot of people are going to be asking the very obvious question of, why hasn't David been brought in at least for questioning? Law enforcement doesn't have the answers they want in order to be able to confront or question David, especially without an autopsy report as to the cause and manner of death.
And on top of all of this, another majorly concerning element to this story is the way that the internet has been handled.
Like, he's the second performer in a 10 million viewed video at the Game Awards. Don't have to watch, but to provide a source. Is this the Arcane? Wait, I watched this performance. 21 Pilots, David, Royal, and the Serpent perform music from Arcane League of Legends. Yeah, I was there at this Game Awards and I watched this performance. Yeah, it seemed to like his career was already had really taken off, and he was only gonna keep exploding in fame.
Handling it. I mean, sure, while fans and
and he did a song for Invincible.
Citizens have dug up a lot of super valid and important information related to this case. Also, a lot of the discourse happening around this issue right now is being painted by clout chasers, by people throwing out insane conspiracy theories, people defending David or totally making up false information, and everyone collectively joining into the narrative in this story is like pretending they're a true crime podcast host, digging for a string of clues that seemingly were left by maybe the biggest brain-dead moron on the planet. A guy who, when you read into his behaviors and the way that he wrote his lyrics and kind of presented himself, seems like he fancied himself as this quirky but tortured, self-obsessed anime villain.
I'm really big into anime and I'm really big into manga, and I wanted to make my own manga series at one point, and a big part of that manga was an evil version of me named Itami, which means pain in Japanese. The story of the manga went like I was a detective and there was an evil version of myself that would kind of come out at random moments, kind of like Fight Club with Tyler Durden. And he
Okay, I just want to say too, I don't think that this should give people permission to look at every artist who has like some type of alter ego or who has disturbing lyrics or whatever it is that could make someone raise an eyebrow and then start making assumptions. But I do think that in context of everything going I understand why the Bennifer Bullage, I understand why his work, his lyrics, his videos, like why people are looking at that, why there are red flags popping up in consideration with everything else. And yes, obviously I know that Black artists, hip hop and rap artists have had to constantly deal with this, have had to constantly deal with racism in the form of like legal problems that come about because of their music, because of their lyrics. This just happened with Young Thug in that trial, where prosecutors were trying to point to his and other defendants' lyrics and be like, see, this is evidence, this is proof. And that's always been something that has been a problem for rap artists, for Black artists in particular. It's the Key and Peele skit. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't think legally lyrics, even in this case, should be evidence in a court of law. But I understand why the public that is poring over the details of this case are looking at now, re-examining his songs, and it's because of this relationship that he had with this child.
Commit the crimes that I would have to solve as a detective. So when I was as a detective, I'd be solving murders that I'm committing myself.
But clearly this situation right now is
I don't think you should point to it and go, this is proof that he murdered her.
Ongoing, and as much as the internet has dug up around this topic and David and Celeste's alleged history, we're still standing officially at a point where we have more questions than answers. But still, on the surface, from everything that has been gathered thus far, the tea leaves are sending a very disturbing message. While I'm sure they're...
But as his lawyer, I'd be like, the fuck you doing? It's not proof, but it does paint a story. Yeah, I think it's in conjunction with everything else, with the Discord messages, with fans making comments throughout the last couple years with the Twitch clips.
Many out there who are very desensitized to the insanity that this story is displaying on some level. I myself continue to be shocked by stories that we're seeing come out of the music industry over and over of people abusing their positions of power in order to abuse and take advantage of others. And if this pans out to be another one of those, it's going to go down in history as handily one of the worst. But that is going to be it. Those are my thoughts for now. Let me know yours in the comments. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out.
Thank you. Thank you, Melon. The lyrics should be used as proof. Here's the problem though, okay? If we start using lyrics in songs as evidence in a court of law, then that opens that opens a real bad door. And like, this has been an issue that people have been trying to fight back against, is how specifically in rap music with Black artists, how they are constantly being targeted by law enforcement, and their music attempted to be used as evidence to lock them away, and how that can put a chilling effect then on art. Because if people worry that like, oh, I might be persecuted for, I might be held legally liable because of what I am putting in my art. And like, I'm saying I agree that in the context of everything with David and everything else that's come out, yeah, like the lyrics are, it's red flag, it's not conjuring up any feelings of his having no involvement whatsoever. Like, it does not, it feels sus, but no, I don't think that it should be used as proof. I don't think that you should build I don't think prosecutors, and hopefully they don't need to hopefully they right now have been compiling real hard evidence so that they're not going to be reliant upon song lyrics. If he did it, there will absolutely be proof beyond the lyrics. Yes, and him having this relationship with Celeste, there already seems to be evidence of that outside of his music. All right. I want to look at, here's Jennifer Lawrence. All right. Jennifer Lawrence spoke up for Palestine at the San Sebastian Film Festival press conference today. Let's take a listen. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Roxy is baddie. Thank you for the 18 months. Quiche, thank you for the 2 months. Hey, Larger, thank you for the 20 months.
You are just an actress in a festival, but outside here, the other day, there was people protesting for what's happening in Palestine. Kids are dying, not only kids, but kids are dying. Kids are dying in Palestine, but also they're dying in Ukraine and in other countries. I would like to ask you, how worried you are for the future of our kids and your kids? Thank you so much.
I'm terrified, and it's mortifying. What's happening is no less than a genocide, and it's unacceptable. I'm terrified for my children, for all of our children. On top of everything else, what makes me so sad is that this disrespect and the discourse in American politics right now is going to be normal to them. I mean, the kids who are voting right now at 18, it's going to be totally normal to them that politics has no integrity, politicians lie, there's no empathy, and everybody needs to remember that when you ignore what's happening on one side of the world, it won't be long until it's on your side as well. And I wish that there was something that I could say, something that I could do to fix this extremely complex and disgraceful situation that breaks my heart. But the reality is our fear and speaking too much or answering too many of these questions is that my words will just be used to add more fire and rhetoric to something that is in the hands of our elected officials. And I just want people to stay focused on who is responsible and the things that they can do and when they need to show up and vote, and not let the actors and the artists who are trying to express freedom of art, freedom of speech, take the heat for the individuals that are actually responsible.
Okay, so a little bit of context. Could you help me understand why bigger celebrities won't speak up? It's so confusing. Like, why now? Yeah, I'll get to that. So Jennifer Lawrence, I don't know why, but she's very good friends with Amy Schumer. I don't know if they're still friends. Maybe after Jennifer Lawrence is now called what's happening in Gaza a genocide. Maybe that's out of the friendship. But it's always been a strange celebrity friendship to me. Jennifer Lawrence and Amy Schumer. They just seem like they come from different worlds. I've never gotten it. But anyway, so when Amy Schumer, I think this was in 2023, because she's been pretty quiet since then. She has signed a couple letters, like I've seen her name, but as far as making statements, I think she's staying quiet. But in 2023, Amy Schumer, of course, was engaging in genocidal rhetoric. She's pro-Israel. There was at that time, there was so much flying around and so much of the support, the celebrity support was for Israel. So it really was not like she was standing out. It's not like, everyone else was sitting down and she was standing up. She was just one of the celebrities who was very explicitly supporting Israel. So anyway, people got mad at Jennifer Lawrence because Jennifer Lawrence is very good friends with Amy Schumer, and she said something to the effect of like that she's inspired by Amy Schumer, how Amy Schumer doesn't back down, and how even when people were saying like, we're being very critical of her and we're saying, leaving mean comments, that Amy is a person who speaks what she believes in and doesn't back down from that. So it definitely seemed like Jennifer Lawrence, without herself explicitly saying it, was endorsing Amy Schumer's support of Israel and Amy Schumer's genocidal rhetoric. So people were like, what the hell, Katniss? Do you not remember Hunger Games? Like, what's wrong with you? Jennifer Lawrence, why are you saying the Capitol has a right to exist? Yeah, like the Hunger Games girl. Did you watch the same movie that we did? Okay, so that was basically Jennifer Lawrence defending her friend, but her friend being Amy Schumer, who, yes, we haven't heard from in a minute, but 2 years ago, Amy Schumer was saying a lot. Amy Schumer was saying a lot. Like post October 7th, she was posting, she was saying shit. And then people came for her. And so I think she's learned to keep her mouth shut while still supporting Israel, right? Like at least she's quiet now. And I think this is true too for other celebrities or other people who support Israel is they're not all Deborah Messing. Okay. They're not all unemployed as hell Deborah Messing who's posting 50 Instagram stories a day and is just like, so it could not be, she can't be racist enough. She's like, I need to be more racist. And I think because of the shift, because of the public shift against Israel and towards Palestine, people who do still support Israel are just staying quiet about it. Aside from the usual suspects now of like Michael Rappaport and Debbie Messy. Is Mayim Bialik? Yes. And Mayim Bialik is still crashing out hard. Do you remember when Mayim Bialik wrote a children's story about, and it was like rockets flying over Israel? And it was like, they're like stars in the sky. She's horrible. She is so vile. What's Brett Gilman up to? Yeah, I haven't heard from him in a minute. You know what's crazy is like, it has been 2 years, which is horrifying to think it's been 2 years, but also a lot of people who were so obnoxious and ghoulish in like the first 6 months. I do feel I'm like, at least we haven't been hearing from all these people still. And I think most of them probably still support Israel. They're just staying quiet about it. Like Sarah Silverman also was someone who went quiet on it. I think she learned a lesson and was like, you know what? I'm not going to deal with this. I think you're referring to Under the Rocket's Glow. Yes, Under the Rocket's Glow. That's what I'm referring to. Okay. So Jennifer said that. And then I think she might have also signed one of those initial letters that was like, thank you, President Biden, for standing up for Israel and like trying to get the hostages back, that kind of thing. So since then, to my understanding, Jennifer has not said anything publicly. She has not joined the growing chorus of major A-list celebrities who have been speaking out for Palestine until today. These comments at this film festival where she explicitly calls the genocide a genocide. And that's why this is, there's a lot of reporting on it. A lot of people are talking about this because she's never been on social media. Yeah, but I also haven't seen her name on... I haven't seen her name on letters, didn't see her name on the pledge, that kind of stuff. So I haven't seen Jennifer Lawrence express anything publicly until now. So I think my thoughts on this are, I'm always torn between, and whoever asked the question, why are major celebrities still not speaking out? Well, it's because it's still not, despite what these crazy ass Zionists are trying to bleat about, it is still not the, it's still not a thing without potential consequences to speak out for Palestine, even though there's been a major shift, and even though you have really famous people like Florence Pugh and Pedro Pascal and other major celebrities who have been speaking out, it's still something that, celebrity like Beyonce and Taylor Swift, two of the biggest pop stars, who have said nothing because they've made the calculation and decided would rather just stay silent on it. I'm not going to say anything pro-Israel, but I'm also not going to say anything on behalf of Palestine. I am just going to be completely silent on the matter. So that way, I don't have to deal with it from one side or another, but also by being silent, by saying nothing, people have people have been critical of that. So no matter what, it's like, okay, if you think that saying nothing is going to protect you from fans being upset, well, it's not. But it's a business calculation. Also because there may be major celebrities who do support Israel, but they're just not saying anything because there has been a shift because they don't want to be associated with that. You know what I mean? So it's confusing because on the one hand, there's been a great enough shift that more people have spoken out, and that I do think that other celebrities are staying quiet who support Israel. But politically and business, as far as it like not impacting your business, your livelihood, there's still a possibility even for rich and famous people for it to affect that. Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's not being a morally strong person as well. There is absolutely cowardice there, right? It's choosing what you think is better for business rather than what's better for humanity. It's that calculation being made. So anyway, I hope that answered your question. But so my thoughts on J-Law finally speaking out, I think it's always a mix when someone with a platform, especially someone who has engaged in politics before, who has said things previously about other atrocities being committed, other civil rights violations, when they finally speak out now after 2 years, there is that, man, I can't believe it took 2 years. There is that for those of us who spoke out early and had to bear the brunt of consequences for it, for people who don't have the protections that someone like Jennifer Lawrence has because she is so rich and famous, that like she's much more protected. She's much more protected than others have been. And you look at like the parallel with Jimmy Kimmel in this whole free speech thing, where it's not that it started with Jimmy Kimmel. It's that we've reached a point now that rich, white, stand-up comedians, late night hosts like Jimmy Kimmel are being targeted, are losing their ability to speak freely. So it's, yeah, it's, I'm always happy to have a major figure stand up and identify what is happening here, because I do believe that, this is the direction we have to keep going in, to keep having major voices, much more, more public support, which then is applying pressure, which then does make it easier for others to speak out. Like, if a celebrity is speaking out, it absolutely inspires other people to speak out. That's just the truth. Like Jennifer Lawrence saying something is going to inspire other celebrities and just regular people to say something as well. I agree. Lawrence was very outspoken during Me Too, and to wait 2 years later is disappointing, but better late than never. Yeah. And there are some people who will staunchly be like, no, fuck you. It took you 2 years. Where have you been? You could have done more, that type of thing. I think I'm choosing I'm a centrist on it. No, I think I fall somewhere along the lines of, it is frustrating. And as a person who spoke out early and doesn't have the power and protections that some, these A-list stars have, had to bear the consequences. And I look at people who have borne even worse consequences, and it's terrible. Like there's no way around like not speaking up against a genocide that your government's facilitating until 2 years in. it's sad, it's frustrating, but also I still think it's important, and I still think this is the difficulty. This is the difficulty in deciding, like, can we allow people to finally come around? Can we allow people to change their minds? Maybe people who were formerly Zionists and now are no longer. It's the question. Yeah. I mean, right? Because I don't want them to stay silent. Like, we don't want people to stay silent, especially people who have influence, who have the ability to inspire others to speak up. Right? Is like, as much as we can wish and desire that people recognize atrocities, right away and speak out against them, and will always choose humanity over business. That's not the case. And so there are still people who have not yet spoken up, who maybe are not yet fully out of the, who are not yet fully free from these lies they have been fed around Israel. And those people, I'll still go, I'll still desire for them to change their minds and to speak up in a morally, to speak up on the side of justice, to be morally right on this issue. If she or others in similar situations widely attacked for not speaking out sooner, there'll be others who make the calculation it's better not to. Yeah, and it's like, I'm not going to... I think what it is, too, is like, I'm not going to effusively praise celebrities who are now speaking out. I'm not going to... it's like, I think it's kind of this balance of, like, I'm glad that more are. I'm glad that major stars like Jennifer Lawrence have finally talked about this being a genocide, but also I'm not going to be like, wow, you're so brave, and I'm not going to shower praise. It's like, yes, this is what we all should be doing. Yeah, I think we just say good, then move on. And, I always think about, too, one day everyone will have always been against this, which is the novel by Omar El-Akkad. One day everyone will always have been against this, and that's something that, like, I see people post a screenshot of that all the time, like, of the cover. And I think that's true, and I think it's just a matter of, like, when you as an individual decide that you are against this, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later. And hopefully it's not when it is completely too late. And the thing I also want to push back on is, I want to push back on people saying it's too late, because I think what that can maybe unintentionally send the message of is, like, it's too late for the people of Palestine. Obviously, a lot of people have died. They've been killed. But this idea that it's too late means that there is no hope, that there's no path forward for Palestinians. And so it can't be too late, because otherwise that means that life for the Palestinian people is over. So I push back on the it's too late notion because of what that means for the Palestinian people. I understand people saying that in relation to celebrities or public figures speaking out. It's like, that's more of a, where have you been? Right? Like, where have you been? But anyway, even with those accepting that there's a genocide, there's still a question of whether or not they're still accepting a Zionist project of some sort. How does Israel, or what's next going to look like going forward? Yes, I'm aware of the fact, too, that people who are speaking out for Palestine, who are, condemning the genocide, may not understand that it's in bringing the genocide to an end, that should not be the end for the Palestinian people. It's not going to liberate them fully. It will end the slaughter they have been experiencing. It will end the genocide, but the path forward for liberation, like what free Palestine means, is freeing Palestine from the from the grip of Israel. It means removing the apartheid structure. It means ending the military occupation, the illegal settlements in the West Bank, all of these structures, all of this state-sanctioned violence that was in place before October 7th, that all of this led up to the events of October 7th. For me, the issue is those celebs that only speak up when asked the question, like it didn't come organically at all. Yeah, I mean, oh, hold on a second. Hello? Hi, I'm still on stream. Did you just finish? Oh! Will called and said that Jennifer wants to get dinner with me, lunch or dinner with me. So I will be setting that up. I may not have been able to make it onto the podcast. I may not have been able to do Farron tonight. No, not Jennifer Lawrence. Okay, it was funny though, because when he called me, he said Jennifer wants to go grab dinner or lunch with you. And we had just been talking about Jennifer Lawrence, and obviously I know that Jennifer Welch was on their podcast. And that's who he was talking about. But for a second in my mind, I was like, Jennifer Lawrence? Because all he said was Jennifer, like right in the middle of this conversation, he calls and says, Jennifer wants to get lunch. Jennifer Welch, Lawrence, Coolidge, all the Jennifers. Throw Lopez in there. Thank you for using your platform to speak on these issues. I'm new to your community, but I appreciate your genuine discourse. You're able to eloquently articulate your views, and I think that's so powerful and needed in this moment. You've made me feel sane again, Queen Shit. Oh, Patty. Thank you. Welcome to the community. First time chatter, not paid. I always appreciate getting those comments because a lot of times I don't know if I am articulating myself clearly. There's always the kind of insecurities and worries and just being on the internet and having been taken out of context and having had my words twisted and manipulated and used in a really bad faith way. Like I no matter what, I always have the concern that I am not speaking clearly. And this was something that I had before stream. Like before I started streaming, I always wanted to be a good communicator and would always doubt myself. And so streaming has only made that worse. Streaming does not make that better. But especially when talking about the issues that we do here, you know, it's not easy. And I'm not saying that to be like, you guys, this is so hard. Aren't I so amazing? It's not easy. I really admire people who are so good at doing this. You know, people who are just amazing writers, who are amazing speakers. Those are inspirations to me. Like Ta-Nehisi Coates is so good. You know, and Hassan might not know shit about pop culture, but when I tune in sometimes, like the stuff that he knows about, he's really good at expressing it. So it's something that, especially in covering a lot of topics, and sometimes, you know, you're working through. The thing about being live is you're working through thoughts. Sometimes it's things I've said a million times, and so it's kind of rote at that point. But other times it's like you're actively working through the thought processes. And when someone asks a question in chat and I'm trying to answer it to the best of my ability, and sometimes I don't have the answers, I don't know, and I do feel pressure to have the answers, and I will sometimes outright say, I don't know, I don't have an answer to that. It's also, there's the like questions that are kind of more concrete answers, and then ones that are more philosophical, you know, ones that get into like moral dealings. And anyway, oh, thank you for all the compliments. Thank you. And also too, like sometimes, you know, I don't try to pull people into the public square too much. Generally try to have chill vibes here, but sometimes a chatter will say something, and especially if I see they're a subscriber, if they've been here for a while, like I recognize their name, and it can make me flustered. Like I don't always feel cool as a cucumber, and I can feel flustered, and I'm trying to pick through, okay, are they not understanding because I'm not clear enough, that I'm not articulating this well enough, or because they are not listening to me, or because they just simply don't agree and so they're being antagonistic? I don't know. Like earlier with the with the Saudi Arabia conversation, I should, you know, it's not that I think every stream, every topic, it's going to be smooth sailing and there's not going to be anybody who's pushing back. But like on that topic, with that conversation, especially if I see that it's at least a couple people and members of the community, I'm like, what is going on? What's happening? What are we doing? And look, I'm good about if some first-time chatter comes in who's not, you know, our lovely first-time chatter, right, that we just had. If it's not, you know, an obvious troll or somebody who just waited 10 minutes to be like, oh, you fucking suck. Oh, you communist piece of shit. It throws me for a loop. And so I kind of have to reevaluate. I have different approaches. You, Hassan, and Mike are my absolute goats. You all approach politics in different but equally educational ways. Never change. I don't think I could if I wanted to. Antonio, thank you for the tier 1. it's always a bummer when it's a community member who doubles down. Well, and so it frustrates. Here's the thing. Some dumbass first time chatter, some troll. It really doesn't bother me. Like, I'm not lying when I say you can't affect me. When it's like you come in here and you're like, we're going to make America great again. That kind of stuff doesn't bother me. It is when it's community members, when it's subscribers, people who obviously are supporting the stream financially, who have been here, have been motivated to subscribe. And it just, it throws me for a loop. And so it's hard because I don't know. It's just, there's just different approaches with different types of chatters that I have to apply. There's a lot of things I was uneducated on or biased on that you've helped me understand or self-reflect on. You're great at what you do. I think it's on people whether they're open to changing their mind or not. And I say over and over again, not for like my ego's sake, but just to remind people that I am trying my best. I'm trying my best. I don't know everything. I don't want, and it's also so I don't put that pressure on myself to know every single thing, to have all the perfect answers. When I say, like, I do not know everything, and even if it's something that I think I know, I also might change my mind on it, or I also might say something and then go, I mean, I've had streams where after I end stream, I sit there and I kind of run through the stream. Maybe something in particular happened and I am like, I'm cringing over it. I'm like, oh, that's not what I meant, or I don't like how that went down. I don't like how that conversation happened. Because there's a feel that you can get. There's a feel that you get. Because the way I look at my streams is they're individual conversations, because we cover different topics. Sometimes it's a continuation of things we talk about, but each topic is its own section almost. I kind of look at it as sections, and sometimes it feels great even when it's a difficult topic. There's just the feeling that you get of, okay, there was a good flow. I felt like we had good conversation in chat. I felt as if I did a good job expressing what I wanted to say. And then sometimes it just doesn't feel that way. I had that feeling after my networking event last night and me being awkward. Does everybody hate me? And sometimes people will come in here and they're like, are you going to talk about this? Or can you talk about, and obviously that's just a thing chatters do, where they'll be like, I need you to talk about this topic. And I can't cover every topic, especially not in one stream. And also I can't, because if I don't feel that I know enough that I can effectively speak on something, I prefer not to cover it. And so it's better for me to try to hone in on the things that I do feel more confident in speaking on. It's like, for like the most part, I am not a global politics expert. I'm not. That's never been anything in my wheelhouse. When I talk about politics, it's primarily around Israel and Palestine, also because the United States, the country I live in, our involvement, or things that are happening, in American politics. So I always say, if there's a topic that you're looking for someone to talk about and I'm not covering it for whatever reasons, there are a lot of great streamers on this platform. There are great YouTubers. So it's why it's important to diversify, to you know, find other people. I am, as much as I'm like, I don't want to lose community members, I don't look at it as losing community members, and I don't want to gatekeep people in this community and be like, you can't go anywhere else, because I do think it's good to seek other sources. I think it's good to have your people too, that you know the types of things that they're going to cover and that they're going to be better at it than others are. So if you want, you know, Southeast Asian politics, I'm not going to be the person for that. You know, if it's, you know, there may be a story, I may briefly touch on it, but to get like really into the nitty gritty, to have the experience and the knowledge, like there are Southeast Asian streamers and YouTubers who are going to be a lot better for that. The way you're able to cut each topic during streams is great. Well, that is, it's part and parcel of my personality, and also how much fucking prep I do on streams. I love that my friends now know, though. They know the prep schedule. So Sam will call me, not unless it's something really important. Like, she won't call me past a certain time because she assumes that I am prepping for stream. Like, she'll know if it's past, if it's a really crazy news day, then I'm probably locked in, like starting at like 11. Otherwise, I've tried to get a little bit better and only do a couple hours before stream. But yeah, people in my life where I stream around 6, but it's also the lead up time to streaming is my prep time. Oh, sorry. South Asian. Sorry. I said Southeast Asian. Just one example though. Would you say that no one is born with the knowledge of all things, and that all of us here did learn about Palestine by going out of their way to do it? Hence the same can be used for the billions of people the Western left avoids. I don't think anyone is born with the knowledge of all things unless they're, I don't know, Lex Luthor. I think there's a difference in what I'm saying between not educating yourself and then not trying to cover every single topic, and not trying to, like, I'm basically trying to say that I think that there are people who are better and who specialize on subjects and on, especially in politics, like in specific areas of politics, than I do. I can't cover everything because it's impossible. And also because I do spend a lot of time reading and trying to learn, even on things that I know about. And so I only have so much time too. And so sometimes I'll read about something for myself, but I am not covering it on stream. This applies to so much more than just Twitch streams. I think this is just in general. Like, I think in general, it's good if you don't know about something to try to learn. I think learning is good. I think you should always be in the pursuit of knowledge. I think that makes, I think being a curious person, is one of the most important things that you can be. And I think always striving to expand your understanding, to learn more things. I have said this before, but my papa, my dad's mom, rest her soul, she always told me, she would always emphasize that she learned something every single day. And she lived until 94, and up until her final moments, like she was still learning. And she said it kept her young. She did. She said her curiosity kept her young. She also was like, you should try and know something about. I'm okay. Are you getting on? You're getting over it. Okay. I'm good though. Thank you. Yeah, using your brain like that is good. ABL. Okay, we've got ABL, always be looting. Not to be confused with ABL, always be learning. Okay, so not to confuse them. So it just depends on the context. ABL or ABL. I think part of the problem with some leftists is that we have this compulsion to act like we're experts on everything when we should be learning from our comrades. Yes. Yeah, no, there's especially with content creators, there's absolutely ego involved. But I also understand that specifically with leftists, I think because we worry that our ideals will be attacked, that we won't be representing leftism well unless we go, I know everything and I'm going to be very authoritative on every single matter. I mean, we've had this conversation a million times too, but I think that can then lead into territory where you are closing yourself off from criticism by those who know more than you do. That when you try and act like an authority on every single matter because you are, I don't know, because you're traumatized by just how leftists are attacked because for whatever reason, then it can inflate your ego to a too big size, and it can also I think it can limit you, ironically. If you think you know everything, it actually then keeps you from knowing more things. It keeps you from learning. You are not ABLing. You are not ABLing when you are ABKing. Always be knowing. Okay? If you're ABKing, if you're like, no, I know. I don't need to be corrected on this. Nope. I'm an authority. Then you're not ABLing. Good night, Concussed. I will probably not be live when you come back, but I'll see you next time. Next thing you know, you'll be telling the American people that Tylenol causes autism. I've been trying to figure out how to fight anti-intellectualism. It's too high a concept usually, I think, but framing it as encouraging curiosity, there could be something there because that curiosity can drive investigation on why people believe X, not because they're dumb. So I think this is something that we all have to learn, that you can't speak to everyone in the same way. You have to be able to have different approaches, in my opinion, depending on who you're talking to. So one thing that I've done with, like, say, family members, friends, people who I have a relationship with, the approach that I have with them on topics that I talk about on stream, trans rights, Israel and Palestine, it's going to be a different approach. So to people who are expressing transphobia, whether they're liberal or conservative, rather than how I would maybe talk about trans issues on stream, I'll probably take the approach of asking questions, and not in like a I'm just asking questions way, to get to why they feel that way. And I know they feel that way because of fear. And I know that there's something going on there that is then causing them to buy into the harmful propaganda around trans people. But you kind of have to dig. You have to be nuanced and like dig deep, and it'll be like, okay, well, why do you feel it's like you have to get people to talk rather than them feeling like they're being talked at. So I'll say, well, why do you feel that way? You know, are you scared of blah blah blah? And obviously, I recognize that I can, you know, it's different because I'm not trans. I'm not talking to someone who like is basically saying that I shouldn't have rights. But I'm just trying to give an example of like how to try and bring people towards empathy rather than away from it. And that I don't have the same approach for everyone in my life, in my career. No one should feel obligated to undergo that emotional labor. No, I don't think that, like, I'm not telling every single person that that's how they should handle things. But Hassan's not going to say the exact same shit he says to chat to the New York Times when talking about certain issues. Yeah, like he sounds different when he's talking to a major publication like that than when he's talking on stream. But I don't know. I think it's I think as far as the, like, you know how people have this aversion to feeling like they're being talked down to feeling like they're being condescended to feeling like, oh, they're not smart enough. They don't like when they don't feel smart enough, when someone is speaking not in their language. Like, that's what it is. Okay, so if I were to explain this, it's understanding how to speak in different languages. And I don't mean like French or Spanish. You know, the approach that you have, the just ability to try and talk to people in a way that they will understand. Because when you put someone on the defense, when they feel like it's turned into an intellectual debate, that's different than a conversation. So like what I'll always say, I remember when I was talking to family members about Israel and Palestine after 10/7, I was like, I'm not debating you. I'm not trying to debate you. I don't want you to feel stupid. I don't think you're stupid. I'm just trying to have a conversation. Like that. It's like, even just the framing it as having a conversation, I'm just trying to inquire, you know, trying to understand what your understanding here is. So then I can, approach things this way. Like if I know better what it is that you believe, what it is that you think, then I know how to approach this here. Saying I don't want you to feel stupid is crazy. Not when you have my family. Not when... And that's why, like, this is anecdotal. Obviously, this is personal. I don't think this is a one size fits all. This is just my personal approach. But no, this is something I've had to do with my family because there are a lot of topics that I know more about and I've just always been more interested in. And I also have a lot more experience speaking and communicating my ideas. So a lot of times what happens is people in my life, even if it's not that I'm being condescending, if they feel like they don't know as much as me, then there's a defensiveness that comes from that. You know, I think people, you can get, like, if you don't know as much as someone, you can feel then that that you're on the defense, that you need to, that like you're being attacked and that you're stupid or that person thinks you're stupid because clearly you don't know as much. But you also don't want to, it's hard to admit. It's hard to admit and be like, I don't know as much about this topic as you. That's not a bad merch idea. I'd buy a I don't want you to feel stupid hat. Yeah, you become defensive and then don't actually listen. Right. So I have a pretty, I don't know. Sometimes I think of myself as an old tree because I've always had to be the person in my life, in my relationships, that tries to remain calm, that tries to always, speak clearly, not get defensive, not become emotional because I feel like I don't know, because that I know less. I sometimes I just feel like an old tree. It can be exhausting. Anyone else? Do you ever feel like an old tree drifting through the wind? Are you an oldest sibling? Yes, I am. Part of being a leftist is having to operate in a glaring double standard. Yes, and I also was the first leftist in my family. Okay, that sounds strange. That sounds like I was the first person to go to college in my family. I was the I was the first leftist. You know what I mean? My family's very liberal. Like in the trenches with the Democratic Party. And so when I moved away from Chicago and I moved to LA and then eventually was on my journey to where I am now, I went from kind of just being about the same as most of my family members, to the left. And like my little sister, my baby sister Cece she's also just Gen Z. So she was a leftist earlier than me, but she was not around. Like she was in school, I don't know, doing her shit. So like with my parents, with aunts and uncles, I was the leftist in the family who spoke, who was usually alone in like on my own side. Also first leftist in a family of middle to right mindsets. See? So some of you in here, you get it. You get it. You're like, I know what you mean when you say you're the first leftist. You're telling me there's a little C to the big C? There is. There's a little C to the big C. Yeah. I mean, I was a Hillary girl. I know. But I would say it was like the 2020s that were the biggest break from what most of my family was like. And then especially Israel and Palestine. That is an issue that I know more than anyone in my family. I've studied and talked about it a lot more. And so that was one where I spent a lot of time talking to my family about. Not that my family were ever Zionists. I think it was just mostly like, I don't know anything about this. I'm the first leftist in my family. I have a unique situation because let's just say my older brother's an SR project manager for a very large military contractor, and that makes for some difficult conversations. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty lucky that there's not an extremely huge gap in the in my immediate family on our politics. Like, I have anti-Zionist friends whose siblings are in the IDF. That is something that I don't have experience with, and I can't imagine. Or like, I have leftist friends whose parents are MAGA, people in here who, that massive divide in your family. So like, there are definitely issues that I have gotten heated arguments with my liberal family members, but the jump from like Donald Trump is my holy leader to like in a family, like someone being a communist and someone wearing an ear bandage, or somebody serving in the IDF, to someone being a staunch anti-Zionist, like that is a big jump. Your brothers are ass mold watchers? Oh my God. Oh no. You're like, how did we differ? How did we differ so much? I'm the oldest, but I'm the first leftist, first queer, AFAB, kind of disabled, and civil's not a thing in my house. Yeah. I wish that it was easier. My grandma thinks dual citizenship should be illegal. Damn. Your twins an Andrew Tate defender. See, I think of my own problems in my family and I go, it could be worse. It could be worse. How is your fucking twin an Andrew Tate defender? You're like, we were in the womb together. What happened? And then it really, like, you look at people who you grew up with, but not just grew up with, we're in the same womb together. And you're like, what? What were our two different paths that had us going like this? What was the environmental influence, the nature versus nurture, that has resulted in us being so vastly different? You're so lucky. It's rough for some of us. Yeah, sorry to be that person, but sometimes you guys do say things in chat and it reminds me, I'm like, it could be worse. I recognize that it could be a hell of a more extreme situation. I'm a cute little closeted trans NB in a Southern Baptist household. Mom begged me to watch Charlie Kirk's memorial because God would want me to. Did you say, why didn't God save Charlie Kirk? Why? My sister's a hardcore Christian. Okay, well, to be fair, I was once upon a time a hardcore Christian when I was in 7th grade. At least I thought I was. And what's funny? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this is hilarious. Because once upon a time, I was also different from the rest of my family, but it's because I was a Christian Bush supporter. I didn't know shit, but I was in junior high. I've told the story a million times when I was a Christian, my Christian era. But my family was like, what is wrong with you? I remember feeling like I was an outsider, that they just didn't get it. They didn't understand. I had my Jesus fish bracelet that I made at Young Life. I remember my sister Liz especially. Like, I wrote her a letter. I don't know if I've told this story. I wrote her a letter freshman year. This was the end of, so my Christian era was 7th grade to probably halfway through freshman year. I wrote my sister a letter when I found out she had gotten drunk at a party, and I wrote her this really long letter, and I think I talked about Jesus and whatnot. And I'm so sad that that we don't have the letter, and so many times that we've referenced this in humor, and I'm like, oh, I wish we had the letter to read, because I think I would actually. I think no, I don't wish, because I think I would die. I think I would be so embarrassed. I think I'd be so embarrassed. But anyway, so it's very funny that happened, and then I later in my life became a leftist to my family's more liberal sensibilities. Could have been a sub goal. It could have been a sub goal where I'm like, hey guys, if we get to 3,000 subs, I will read the letter that I wrote my sister my freshman year of high school when I found out that she had drank alcohol at a party. But I also think about, like, you know, if that had not been a phase for me, it's just a phase, Mom. If that had not been a phase for me and I had just somehow stuck on that path, like if that was how my family was, then I don't know what would, I don't know, maybe it would have been harder for me to pull out of that. You were God's strongest soldier. I was, and now I'm the devil's. I was God's strongest soldier, and now I'm Lucifer's. Why do you have so much insane lore? I like that my Christian era, my like evangelical Christian Bush supporting era is lore. So all you knew was defying your family? Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Also me being theater kid. Although later siblings tried to do theater. But as far as being the theater kid, I am absolutely my family's theater kid. I was also the only one who liked growing up listening to musical theater, listening to opera. Oh, I was an outcast because I loved opera. I was an outsider in my family because I had an appreciation for opera and for theater. How would your evangelical self feel about you ordering one weed on the phone? Oh my God. If me today like sat down with 13-year-old me, what a conversation that would be. Like I think about, do you guys ever think about okay, so how you are now, if you were to pick a point in your life where you think you were the most 180 to how you are now, truly yin and yang, like just total opposites. For me, I think it's got to be in that era. Like 13 years old. 13-year-old would have believed in the rapture. I mean, you know, I told you I was reading those Left Behind books. In 7th grade, I said I'd never smoke weed. Oh, I don't even think I knew what weed was. I was like alcohol. Even alcohol was still a lingering thing that I had in high school, but that was because then I kind of had a goody two-shoes attitude. I was like, I'm too busy working my way towards New York to party in some parent's basement. Like there was kind of that, once I stopped being a Christian, I still had a little bit of holier than thou. Still had a holier than thou attitude where I was like, oh, I'm so much better than the rest of you. The residual, the remains, even though I no longer was a soldier for Christ. All right. Well, would love to keep chatting. Hogan, thank you for the gifted song sub. Would love to keep chatting, but I am late. I gotta go. I gotta go support my friend Taylor Swift. Do you know her? She has a new album coming out. So I'm going to the album release party. Taylor Swift, that's right. I will tell her that you guys say hi And congratulations on the engagement. Can't believe you have early access. I know. No one tell Cutie. Nobody say a word. Yes, this was a shorter stream, but I will be back tomorrow. I will be back tomorrow. Yes, T-Swift party and dinner with Jennifer Lawrence. Kind of a big deal. Kind of a big deal. All right. Okay, I'm sending over to Will. He's booting up Rust. Hopefully there's no drama today, or if there is drama, it's only good drama. Only good drama. We like fake drama, not real drama, but I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for joining. Hope you enjoyed your time here. Hope you come back. And that's it. That's all. I got nothing else pithy. All right, bye.